Good morning, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of the Market Open. It is Tuesday, June 10th. We are live and we are alive today on another Market Open. Thank you, everybody, for being here. We have so many things to discuss that have happened in the past 24 hours. Futures last night were exploding, up about 0.5%, which it's not really exploding, but still, like, given how much momentum we've had in the past 2 months, I think a lot of us have been expecting to consolidate, and we are pushing higher still. S&P 500 above 6,000 in the pre-markets. And the reason for that is likely because of the updates we got in regards to trade deals that happened last night. That pushed a lot of stocks up in the overnight markets. And then obviously right now in the pre-markets, you got the S&P 500 right here, 600.6, Tessie 315. We have some big updates on Tesla that happened last night that are probably leading to the stock getting some momentum and recapturing some of the 370 losses that it had from 370 to 295. It's not a full recovery, but it's back here at 315 right now. Nvidia 143 in the pre-markets, Palantir 131. You got Robinhood. Got some big updates from Robinhood yesterday. Vlad Tenev was at the InvestAmerica Summit or roundtable discussion. And there are some pretty interesting things that he showed off in terms of new demos of products that could be game changers, in my opinion, for Robinhood over the next decade. You got some SoFi at 1418, Grab 494. We'll talk about some updates we had from Grab yesterday. Google at 176. Amazon 217, Amazon kind of breaking out from that 205 level. And then overall, the broader market doing well. Apple, unfortunately, relatively flat in the pre-markets. We'll talk about the updates they had at the Worldwide Developer Conference. They weren't the most exciting updates, but it's up to the street now to judge what they think about Apple. And then Bitcoin, just below 110, which is also very exciting to see as we were pushing 111 yesterday. After hours as well. So we have some macro news. We have some ASTS news. They actually got included into the Russell 1000 this morning. So we'll talk about that. Palantir did have another partnership this morning with an Italian company. So we will talk about that partnership as well. And then obviously we will go through all the different pieces of news updates that we're going to get as we enter into the rest of the Market Open. It is the second week of June. We've got basically 2.5 weeks left of the month, and then we end out Q2. So a lot of companies are going to be finishing up the final things they need to do to end out the quarter. In terms of earnings this week, today we do have an earnings after hours. We have GameStop and GitLab. GitLab, I would say, is relatively important. GameStop in general is a stock that has a lot of attention. And then tomorrow we have Oracle. The day after that, we have Adobe. So really tomorrow and Thursday are going to be two important SaaS companies that are earnings that we definitely should care about. And then we're done for the next 2.5 weeks, and we don't really have any earnings to pay attention to until July 10th. That's when we get into bank earnings, and then we will start Q3 and see what goes from there. Good morning. Thank you for being here. Erwin, what's up? Autumn Soul, what's up? Simret, good morning. Thank you for being here. The ASTS stream with Kris happening tomorrow night, most likely at like 9 p.m. I will give you guys details probably on the market close today, but we will be talking ASTS tomorrow night, and we will keep going from there. Broccoli Bob, good morning. Bolu, what's up? Alex, Celsius is strong in the pre-market. That's up about 1%, which is very nice as well. So Celsius breaking above that $40 level, which is super dope. Sean, what's up? Zunaid, morning Amit from Cape Town, South Africa. You know, we haven't done this in like 3 weeks, so let's do this. Where are you watching from? Where are you watching from? Put in the chat where you are watching from. Shane says, take that hat off, put the Yankee hat. You guys probably have noticed by now, like, when I get a new hat, I kind of just wear that hat. I was like, I think we've had like 7 hats this year, and like when I like it, I just wear it every day. So yeah, the Boston hat is now. Shout out to Boston, dude. Not Massachusetts. Shout out to Boston. Not Massachusetts. Shout out to Boston. One name is easy to say. One name is the most complicated state on the planet to say. But yeah, so now I'm repping. But I've been getting so many questions about like, are you from Boston? Do you like Boston? I'm like, no, I just like the hat. That's why I don't. I'm a hat whore, bro. Like you give me any hat, I'll wear it. I don't care. This is a Bay Area, Boston. I really don't care. I'm just gonna wear it. And so yeah, we've been rocking with Boston. All right, cool. What do we got? Let's do this for a couple minutes, and then we will get into all the news. We got Andrew from Texas. We got Kazakh from Poland. We got Yuri from Armenia. I don't think we've ever had someone from Armenia in the chat. Shout out to Yuri from Armenia. We got Ash from Florida. We got Joe from New Jersey. I love it. Houston in the chat. Ryosh 2:45 a.m. from Hawaii. I love it. France, Washington State, Toronto, T-Dot. Love that city. Hopefully we'll be there soon. Derek from Orange County, California. Laura from Oregon. I love it. I've got to go to Oregon one day. I've never been there. Portland. I would definitely love to visit the Oregon area. We got Tennessee in the house from Nick. We got Bosnia. We got Invest with Justin from Minnesota. We got San Diego. I'm definitely, we got, of course, we have Massachusetts in the chat. We got a bunch of you guys that love to be from that state. We got Jin from Singapore, Farkas from Ireland. I'm not going to make the joke. Don't worry. I'm not going to do it, but I love that you're from Ireland. Not going to make the joke. Not going to do it. Just saying that if you're in Ireland, then you're probably focused on doubling your money. You know what I'm talking about? So shout out to Ireland. We got that girl from Dallas. We got Albi from Ghana. We got Boston, Israel, Sweden, Luxembourg. You know, Luxembourg just sounds like a luxury name. Is that just me? Luxembourg just sounds like it's a luxury type of name. Like that name itself just sounds so cool. Switzerland in the house. We got, again, another Ireland. I love it. Poland. Got a bunch of Texases, a bunch of Kansas right here. Chicago. Someone said the moon. Will we actually get there with the stock market? You know, we've been mooning for the past couple months, which has been pretty good. So hopefully we continue to stay on the moon and maybe go to Mars a little bit later as well. We got Haiti in the house. We got Long Island, Netherlands, Belgium, Canada. It's just so cool, dude. So many people from across the world. Somalia, Germany, Mexico, again, Poland, Israel, Japan. So cool. Taiwan, I love it. We got some India in the house. You know, I just went downstairs to, I don't see my grandparents for like the first 4 or 5 hours of the day because I'm streaming and I'm working. So I just went downstairs just to say good morning and give them a hug. And my grandmother, she's like, so do you want some tea? Do you want some breakfast? Can I make something for you? I'm like, no, I got to go work. I never eat anything or drink anything before the show. Like I just don't like having anything in my system. And she's like, so you came downstairs just to hug me? And I was like, yeah. She's like, oh, and I was like, yeah, I don't make a big deal out of it. Like, I just came down to hug you. Like, I don't want any tea or anything. She's like, all right, but I need some breakfast. I need to make you some breakfast soon. I'm like, nah, I'm just not going to eat breakfast. It kills her heart every day that I don't eat breakfast. But I'm like, I can't eat breakfast before I talk. Like, I'm at 4 hours. I need to have an empty stomach to do this. So, yeah, gotta give them a hug every morning. So, all right. Thank you, everybody, for being here. Appreciate it. A lot of you guys saying put your grandmother on stream. Maybe we'll do that. Maybe on a market close, I'll bring her up. She doesn't speak English, but she speaks a little English here and there. Maybe she'll be excited to do it. And maybe we'll try to get her on a stream as well. So, all right, let's get started. Thank you, everybody, for being here from across the entire world. Absolutely incredible. Super grateful and super blessed every morning that you guys come and choose to watch the stream from all across the world in different places, different locations. For some of you guys, it's evening, it's night, but very, very appreciative for everybody being here. Laura, thank you for the super chat from Singapore. Laura Chow, I love it. Love Singapore. 2026, I will be in Singapore. And we'll be very excited to visit the country as well. All right, cool. So let's get into it. We got a bunch of stuff happening in the pre-market. I think the first thing to discuss is why markets are green. And one of the main reasons is because we got an update from the trade deals. So we obviously have the China deal that is underway. Lutnick, Greer, and Besant are negotiating for day 2 in London. That is happening probably right now. With negotiations are taking place, and we'll get some updates on that later. However, late last night, the Japan economic minister it was reported from Bloomberg that they will be visiting the U.S. and Canada from June 13th to 18th, so next week, for tariff talks. That immediately got futures to become excited. Now, why were they excited? Because, okay, we got China negotiations hitting day 2. We've got Japan visiting the United States for more trade talks. If there's any world where we get a Japan deal and a China deal at the same time, or at least the resemblance of it at the same time, that obviously could be very, very bullish for markets. Here is Lutnick this morning speaking a little bit about the trade talks with China.
We've been all day yesterday, and I expect to do all day today. So they're going well, and we're spending lots of time together.
Thank you, Mr. Secretary.
Thank you, Mr. Secretary. Yeah, I'm not sure if you heard there.
Okay, so nothing too crazy, but he said, hey, we're going to be talking all day. We were talking all day yesterday, and we're going to continue to be talking with our Chinese counterparts. Now, obviously, we don't have any updates from what's going on right here outside of the Wall Street Journal headline that broke while we were on the market open yesterday, which was that Trump gave Besant the freedom to essentially talk to China and negotiate with tech sales as per United States tech sales, things that we sell from the United States that have to do with technology, most of that being chips. I mean, that's one of our biggest exports when it comes to technology, because we're not allowed to have Google and Facebook and all these tech services that we sell to Europe inside of China because they banned all that stuff. But they haven't banned NVIDIA chips. In fact, they are dying to get more NVIDIA chips. We are not giving it to them. And the reason we're not giving it to them, in my opinion, is just to be able to further have a pawn in this negotiating or a tool for negotiating in this overall trade war. And NVIDIA is being treated as a pawn. So if there is any world where NVIDIA gets the clearance to be able to sell into China and do what they need to do, because we get rare earth minerals or some type of subsidy from China that we have been looking for. Again, NVIDIA would have got it for $53 billion in Q2. They got it for $8 billion less because of the export controls. If that number goes back to $53 billion, probably not in Q2, but maybe there's a chance in Q3, definitely in Q4, if hopefully this doesn't last for the next 10 months, then that obviously could be very bullish for NVIDIA. That could lead to a lot of growth estimates for NVIDIA. That could lead to a lot of earnings estimates that were taken away because of this lack of China revenue. And that's probably why NVIDIA was trying to pump. It stopped at 144.99 yesterday. It was not able to get over the hump. But the reason it got there, in my opinion, was because of this idea that they're going to get their China revenue back, which would be very, very bullish for NVIDIA. Now, speaking of NVIDIA, one of the reasons why the market continues to be excited about this company is TSMC. So TSM, one of the main suppliers for NVIDIA chips, posted $9.8 billion in May revenue. It's up 40% year over year, down 8% month over month. But the year-to-date revenue for NVIDIA now, for TSM, is up 42.6% year over year at the tune of $46.4 billion. So they are growing essentially 40% year over year. And these numbers are incredible, right? If you look at the April revenues or the May revenues compared to last May's revenues, that's 39.6%. That's just phenomenal growth. That's not going to happen forever. But the idea that this is super cyclical and this is going to fall off a cliff in 2 years and NVIDIA is Cisco, it's just like, we're not seeing the evidence for that. We're just not seeing the evidence for that. And from that perspective, I think it's very exciting to see some of this momentum that NVIDIA and AMD and Nebius, CoreWeave, et cetera, all these guys are getting. Chris Bennett says, Amit, love your channel, brother. Been watching you for a couple months now. I'm still learning. Chris, thank you for being here. I mean, a lot of you guys have been saying that you're new subscribers. We did just cross 80,000 yesterday. So thank you to everyone who's been subscribing. Super, super awesome. And a lot of you guys have been enjoying the channel. It's funny because a lot of you guys who join, they like, you find me through a live stream. So you just pop into the live stream and then it's like all this madness in the live stream. And hopefully it's super fun and enjoyable and informative. And we bring on good guests and, we'll make it an exciting experience every day. Because the markets are exciting. I mean, like, how could you not be excited to cover the markets? So that's what we got in the context of NVIDIA and the China trade deals. We'll hopefully get more updates today once Besant, Lutnick, and Greer are done negotiating. I don't expect any major updates, but probably by the end of the night, I would imagine they say something about potential handshake deals they've come to a conclusion to, which means that could be a massive catalyst for NVIDIA today. They say anything good about GPUs coming back to NVIDIA or GPUs coming back to China or any level of tech sales being enhanced. The broader S&P could just rally off that, based on the idea that in negotiation, everyone is supposed to win. And if China feels like they won and the US feels like they won, the market at this point is kind of fed up with this whole back and forth. They don't need to see the US getting the better over China. They just need to see a conclusion to this debacle that we've had over the past 5 months. And that would be enough, I think, for the market to rally as well, which would be very, very exciting for the entire market and obviously for NVIDIA as well. Okay, so let's talk about Tesla, and we'll talk about Grab as well, and we'll keep going from there. So Tesla right here at 3:15. I actually was on the phone with our good friend Sachin, who's a friend of the channel. There he is right there in the chat. We talked for about almost 2 hours last night, and I got to pick his brain on a lot of different things. There is a big Grab update that we'll talk about in a second, but I did talk to him about Tesla and what he's thinking about Tesla right now. And what prompted me to ask him about this is because he put out a post over, I think it was on Sunday night. And his post was just, hey, look, I'm a longtime Elon believer. Sachin told us yesterday that he invested in SpaceX. It's like a 10x for him. So he invested a long time ago. He's obviously believed in Elon for a while. But he said right here, at this time, the risk on his brand, including Tesla, is very high. To be honest, Tesla risk is the biggest in his portfolio of companies. And so the post just kind of lays out how he thinks that Tesla's risk to reward in terms of managing capital and the type of risk you're taking to be able to get any level of meaningful gain in this market, given all the other opportunities. It's just one of the highest risks that he's seen in the market, and he's been investing for the better part of 30 years. Now, you don't want to look at the comments under that post because like I was talking to him about the comments. He was just like, dude, these people are it's a religion, dude. It's an absolute religion. Like 70% of the comments are like reasonable. People like, yeah, I get it. I see your perspective. Even if they're bullish on Tesla, like, yeah, I understand this is a risk. The other 30% are like, you've attacked their soul. Like you've literally attacked their soul by pointing out, hey, there might be a little bit of an issue here when Trump, Elon says he's on the Epstein list, like that might create some problems here. So, regardless, one of the things, that I've realized over the past 48 hours of my Tesla post kind of going viral and seeing all the vitriol that I got from these people that are deeply invested, not just financially, but like emotionally in the story and how aggressive they are over anyone questioning any little bit of the thesis, is that, to be honest, it is one of the reasons why Tesla is actually a good investment. I mean, when we talk about cults, we've talked about the Palantir cult. You talk about the SoFi cult. I don't think Robinhood really has a cult, to be honest. I just don't think there's that big of a community for Robinhood. But you have these communities that end up becoming cults. And at some level, these cults are not going to let the stock drag down for too long. They will just buy that dip. And this is the evidence right here. So TSLL, the record, the Tesla Bull Direction 2x leverage fund, had a record inflow last week, 651 million, most of that coming on Thursday when he put out the Epstein tweet, and Tesla stock fell like 15%. Bloomberg said the buying spree into TSLL, which is designed to deliver twice Tesla's daily return, reflects a now familiar reflex, doubling down on Elon Musk during sell-offs, a strategy that's worked spectacularly in the past. It's pretty incredible, dude. And quite frankly, it does make me a little bit more bullish for Tesla. The risk to reward, just given the earnings, I think is not the best in the world right now. I mean, with NVIDIA growing the way they're growing and so many of these other companies, Tesla's not really showing the growth. So everything you're investing in is robotaxi and Optimus, and you're just investing that future is going to happen. And that future might be far away, but regardless, people that are part of this cult, they don't care. They don't care how long. They don't care if it's a decade away. They will continue to buy this dip. And I think that's actually something positive for Tesla. But that also does mean that if you say anything negative, you got to be ready for the vitriol that's going to come at you. Now, what happened yesterday that's causing the stock to pump? It's not only the China updates. It is actually a potential mending of the relationship. I say potential, but it could be something that's happening with Mr. Elon Musk and Donald Trump. So Trump was asked about Elon yesterday, and this is what Trump had to say.
Are you going to get rid of the Tesla and the Starlink service that you have here at the White House?
No, I haven't heard that. I mean, I may move the Tesla around a little bit, but I don't think we'll be doing that with Starlink. It's a good service.
Where are you going to move it to? Move it around. What do you mean?
I have a lot of locations.
Actually, about the
I got so many locations that I don't know what to do with them all.
About the Tesla.
Did you ever see Elon Musk get physical with the Treasury Secretary?
No, I didn't.
And I tried to
They
ask.
did have an argument, but I didn't see. I didn't see a lot of physicality there.
And there was this New York Times report that he did not want to talk about, Elon Musk, that alleged that he, towards the end of his time in the White House, was blurring the lines between recreational use of drugs and medicinal. Do you think he ever had drugs here at the White House?
I really don't know. I don't think so. I hope not. Look, I wish him well. You understand. We had a good relationship, and I just wish him well. Very well, actually. Yeah.
So after Trump said those comments, Tesla pumped 5%. And at this point, it's getting kind of just like comical the way the stock is moving in relation to the Trump-Elon relationship. Remember, Tesla was at 250 on November 5th. And then after Trump won, we had a run to 480 from 250, and nothing materially changed in the business. One could argue that the business got bad, right? Like the business got a lot worse in terms of just growth. And then in Q1, we saw deliveries. But the Elon-Trump relationship was so exciting to the market because the idea was, all right, Elon is taking a poker bet on the most powerful man in the world who can help streamline regulations, yada, yada. And that would be something that would be very positive for Tesla. And you know, it was positive for Elon's brand positioning in terms of power and proximity to power. Probably wasn't the best for his overall Tesla brand, given all the vandalism and the lack of European sales, et cetera. But the market still said, hey, even after a crappy Q1, we're going to give this stock a premium. And it rallied from about 220 in the April lows. I don't know if Tesla has to go back into those low 200s. I mean, Q2 looks like it's not going to be good. We got China numbers yesterday, and China numbers are down 34% week over week. Now, the caveat here is that there was a long holiday in China, so it's not just Tesla. It's a lot of the other EV companies as well. So I think you have to take it with a grain of salt. But overall, we know that the numbers are just not showing to be really good for Q2. And I think even with relatively crappy numbers, if they are able to make up in some way, which, by the way, Trump was very gracious in terms of how he just answered those questions. I don't know if that means he wants to make up with the guy. I think he wouldn't mind because he still likes Elon's power and wants to be close to his power and his wealth. And he probably doesn't want to be in a feud with the richest man in the world. But I don't know if that means he wants to fully make up. Elon right here, you can see on the screen, posted a heart emoji underneath that video that I just showed, signaling that, you know, he still has love for the president. He deleted all the slanderous tweets that he put out about Trump as well. And so, you know, maybe there's a world in which Elon was just like, all right, I messed up, posted some tweets. You know, I was maybe a little bit whatever on Thursday. And I kind of got too cocky. I posted some weird tweets. It pissed off a lot of people. And I'm going to retract. Now, granted, the things he said, I don't know if you recover from, but if there's anyone who could recover with it, I do think it's a guy who wants to make a deal, which is Trump. And he's always interested in making some type of deal or always having some type of conversation. Now, one thing that's important is that I think Elon's not going to get integrated into the ecosystem with Besant and Lutnick anymore. I think Besant and Lutnick are probably really happy that they don't have to worry about his opinion kind of impeding the agenda of the administration. So I don't think he gets that close to the point where he's like an advisor for the president. But I do think there's a world in which if, there's any level of collaboration that wants to happen, there's not that much bad blood, even though you would think there is, but maybe there's a world where that makes up. And that ultimately is the resolution to the situation, which would mean Tesla goes up. If Tesla's trading on the Elon-Trump relationship and there's any level of progress over the next couple months that Elon and Trump are cool, even if they're not like two peas in a pod like they were before, maybe Tesla kind of rallies off that. In terms of the actual earnings, again, we've talked about it, and we're going to see in Q2, it's just not going to be a good quarter. Like energy's not growing, or energy's growing, but it's not growing at the growth rates that it needs to make any meaningful difference. Robotaxi, I think, is happening in 2 days. It was supposed to be June 12th. We haven't gotten an update from that. Maybe they just pop out on June 12th and say, boom, here we go, Robotaxi. I was talking to Farzad yesterday, and Farzad's like, I don't think it's happening. They would have made an announcement by now. They did apply for a known autonomous vehicle operator license in Austin yesterday, so we did get to see that, and that probably also pumped the stock a little bit because people saw that, all right, it's definitely happening, but it might not be happening on June 12th, and that's okay. It's just, again, the market might have to wait a little bit longer. Now, if it doesn't happen in June at all, I don't know if that's going to be the best thing for Tesla, because I think people are, they were promised June. If it doesn't happen in June, they're going to be pretty annoyed. But, if it does happen in June, that will be some progress. Again, there's only going to be 10 or 12 of them that are going to be in Austin. So it's not like it's going to be some massive, massive event that's going to change the trajectory. But over the next 18 months, Elon said there should be hundreds of thousands of robotaxis across the entire country. And that, I think, is the growth curve that the street is working on, or the street is expecting. And if that, does end up manifesting itself, that could be bullish for Tesla as well. So that's what we got in the context of Tesla. Tesla stock going green. Look, if you bought it at 270, you should be happy. I mean, rallied from 314. The question just here, and what I was talking with Sachin last night is, what is the risk to reward, right? If you buy it at 270, buy it at 315, buy it at 320, buy it at 290, what are you holding on to, and what are you betting will happen over the next 12 to 18 months with that stock, and what is the downside risk as well? And just from his perspective, he shared that the downside risk is way too high to be holding something like this that is so aggressively trading on pure momentum, pure hype, pure lack of fundamentals, and not actually growing. Now, if you have a 10-year vision, then it doesn't matter, right? Because in 10 years, I think Tesla is much bigger than it is today. But if the opportunity cost of your capital is within the next 12 months and you're actively managing your portfolio, it's a different question to have. But based on what that chart I just showed you about retail and betting on TSLL, retail and this cult is stronger than I could have ever imagined for Tesla. And I really, it took the last couple of days for me to really understand how deep this cult is. Like, to see the pushback on a tweet that I put out talking about some obvious headwinds and some tailwinds for Tesla, and then to see all the pushback that Sachin got, people saying screw you and I hope you die and all this. It's just like, okay, so this is like this is different. This is like people have posted bearish things about Palantir, and I just like either I don't respond to it or I like engage and I'm like, oh well, here's my counter perspective. It's not like, hey, I hope you like burn in a hole. It's like at some level, it's kind of this like, okay, so this is such a deep religion, which is actually kind of bullish because it means that they're not going to let this stock fall. They will spend their last dollar buying Tesla stock, and that that type of a cult just doesn't exist on a lot of different names. It definitely doesn't exist on Palantir or Robinhood or SoFi. I mean, like the Tesla is just different, So from that perspective, I do think there's a world that Tesla continues to maintain this multiple, but ultimately I think earnings is going to give us a much better understanding of what happens to Q2. So there you go. That's what we got on Tesla. Let's talk about Palantir real quick, and then we'll talk about Grab and Robinhood. So Palantir had a new update this morning, and this update is with an Italian company. Definitely going to say this wrong, but it's with Fedrigoni, the Italian global leader in specialty papers. So that is the partnership. I'm pulling up the press release right here. Fedrigoni and Palantir partner to accelerate operational transformation with AI. Palantir today announced a multi-year partnership with Fedrigoni, a global reference manufacturer of specialty papers for packaging and other creative applications, self-adhesive labels, graphic supports for visual communication, and RFID. The strategic alliance aims to accelerate Fedrigoni's digital transformation by leveraging advanced AI capabilities and Palantir's innovative solutions. We got a quote right here from Palantir. We are excited to collaborate with Fedrigoni on their digital transformation journey. This partnership highlights the transformative potential of AI in traditional industries, and we are honored to support them in achieving their strategic vision. This So there you go. It was it was okay. The pronunciation, it was right, not horrible. This is really good to me because look, it's a small deal. It's like some multi-$100 million deal. However, it is once again international. It's in France. We've been seeing a lot more commercial international deals from Palantir, whether it's with SAP, whether it's with the government in Ecuador, or whether it's with Fedrigoni today, and there's a couple others that we got last week. I mean, this is starting to show. I think we grew like -5% in Europe last quarter. So any level of positive growth, even if it's 1%, I think would be exciting to the street. But U.S. commercial cannot just be the growth story for Palantir for the next, for the next decade. We need international growth to happen eventually. And Italy, right? Not France, Italy. But and in order to get that international growth, we've got to be able to expand. And in order to expand, obviously, we have to be able to show off that the software is usable in these different parts of the world. And in order to make that like something that's mainstream in terms of the commercial industries that are looking for an AI platform to adopt, they've got to believe in Palantir, and we've got to be able to market in those locations. So I just think every single international deal we get, we shouldn't hold our breath to say, okay, this is like the breakout for the S-curve of international growth, but eventually that will happen, because eventually if Palantir is the de facto platform that people want to use for AI, it's going to happen in Europe regardless, and that obviously would be a massive tailwind for Palantir. So I don't know if it's going to have a massive impact on the stock. We were at 132 yesterday, 130, 130 right now. Look, folks, it's been 2 months. We're normalizing the hundreds. I feel like we're normalizing the hundreds here. I mean, like if we were to fall to like 90, I think that would be a massive drop, right? Not just because 130 to 90 is a pretty big move, but rather just because we've been looking at triple digits for so long. It's like Tesla when it was at 350 and it fell to 270. It's we know how volatile Tesla can be, and it should be expected that Tesla can go down 20-30% instantly. But it's also like, dude, it was sitting at 300 for almost a month and a half, and like it's just crazy to see a 2 handle on it. And now it's back to 314 because people bought that dip. So if we were to fall under 100, I think people would buy that dip. That is again the good part about being in a cold stock. People want to buy in when they have an opportunity, even if it's not like the juiciest opportunity, but they perceive any decline 10-15% as an opportunity. But it would surprise me if we get below triple digits. We would have to mess up earnings. And I don't think that's going to happen. Which means, hopefully we get to stay in these triple digit levels for Palantir. Webull launches Kalshi's hourly crypto markets on investing platform. Okay, cool. So Webull integrating prediction markets and crypto more onto their platform. Webull right here up 3%, 11.12. Webull again was $80 after the IPO, fell pretty dramatically. Again, I looked at their S1, I looked at their earnings. I just don't see a massive growth story here. I'm not saying Webull can't pump to $20, but the growth story is just not that exciting when compared to a lot of the other players in the space. I mean, even eToro is growing more than Webull. And, I think there's other arguments for different stocks out there in the space that, could be bullish as well when it comes to brokerages. Obviously, Robinhood is one of the main ones that I'm excited about. So Robinhood right here, let's get into that discussion. 73.65. Vlad did some pretty cool stuff yesterday. He was at the InvestAmerica conference or the InvestAmerica roundtable. This is the piece of legislation that essentially gives $1,000 to every single newborn, and it tracks the S&P 500 from when they're born to, I believe they get to access it when they're like 35. Here's what Trump had to say about this initiative yesterday.
So they've come up with some fantastic ideas. We're putting them into use. They're really the greatest business minds we have today. These men and women lead large, successful companies, and they're committed to contributing millions of dollars to the Trump account. And it's really, it's going to be something incredible for children and for their employees in many cases. Here's how the accounts work. For every U.S. citizen born after December 31st, 2024, before January 1st, 2029, the federal government will make a one-time contribution of $1,000 into a tax-deferred account that will track the overall stock market. In other words, it'll be pegged to an index that we'll pick. Right, Michael? We'll pick it. We'll pick a good one. Maybe you should be the index. I'd like to have that. These kids would be very wealthy if that were the case. That would be good. I think we might do that, Michael Dell. So they've come.
So they are officially called the Trump accounts, which is, I mean, you got to give it to the guy when it comes to branding. But Vlad was at the conference. He was there with Mr. Brad Gerstner, as you can see right here. And this Brad Gerstner connection we'll talk about in a second. He was showing off the UI to other people that were at the Invest conference. What do I mean by UI? Well, they ended up making a demo, and this is the demo right here. This is your Robinhood account that is geared towards Invest America. And the entire idea here is that parents can sign up their kids on this platform, and it could custody this $1,000 account, as you can see right here, signed by President Donald Trump. You got Robinhood definitely doing some nice little glazing of Mr. Trump right there. And people can sign up, and then immediately they get to custody their accounts on the Robinhood platform. This is what Vlad had to say about it yesterday.
All right. Vlad Tenev, co-founder and chief executive of Robinhood, here at the White House for the Invest America Summit, which is an amazingly important initiative to give every child born in this country, 3.7 million babies a year, $1,000 in a brokerage account where they can invest in a diversified portfolio of American companies. I think this is super important. Brad Gerstner, the Invest America team, have done a nice job. And Robinhood has committed and already actually executed upon putting our technology resources to bear to make these accounts delightful and easy to use, and actually making them available to children. So we showed that to a lot of folks here, and I think people are excited. So I'm hopeful that this initiative actually shows the power of investing in the American system and capitalism for all Americans. All right.
He was doing the Trump hands the whole time. I don't know if that was on purpose or if that's how he talks with his hands. But yes, he was embracing his inner Trump with the hand movement. Look, I think this is super bullish, dude. I think it's super bullish. I think from one perspective, it changes the thesis on Robinhood. If we have a generational wealth transfer that is happening, starting with 3.5 million newborns, it's $3.5 billion, $1,000 per kid. Some people are calling this socialism. I've heard that critique. And like, I get it, but in my opinion, it's less about socialism. It's more so about, hey, we spend $3.5 billion on absolutely nothing every year. I mean, we spend billions and billions of dollars of nonsense. To say, hey, we're going to give $1,000 to every newborn, one-time payment, that's it. And that $1,000, we're just going to let it compound in the markets, and family members can add to that account every single year. And it incentivizes family members to add to the accounts because, when I was born, I didn't have a stock market account set up for me, right? Like my parents didn't do that. And if they had $1,000 from the government to get them set up, maybe they would have contributed to it as I was growing up, and I would have had the power of compounding on my side. But most people don't do that. And so I think it's a very powerful initiative. I think it makes a lot of sense. SoFi's Anthony Noto is also on the board of this entire Invest America Council, which is very bullish for SoFi as well. A lot of companies are trying to see how they can play a role here. In terms of the growth prospects of it, so we talked about this last night on the podcast with Tanner and Roy. I think Tanner does have a point. The one point of contention he brought up was like, hey, just because Robinhood is, Vlad was at the summit and Vlad was with Gerstner, all this stuff, doesn't mean that Robinhood is going to get the lion's share of the 3.5 million newborn accounts that are started every year that are part of this program. And look, he has a fair point. As I thought about it, because it's like, unless Robinhood is the de facto platform for this product, then they're not going to get the lion's share of the attention, right? Or Schwab, Fidelity, all of these guys will set this up for their kids. And then if you're a parent who's used Schwab for 30 years and you have a child, you might just set it up with Schwab. However, I think there's an argument that Brad Gerstner is now a heavy shareholder in Robinhood. He's been obviously looking at Robinhood for the past couple of months or past couple of years here at this point, since end of 2023. Robinhood came up with this demo. Probably they worked on it over the past month and tried to make it seem really good so they could show it off to people. Is there a world where Robinhood is able to get upwards of 20 to 25% of the accounts that are created every year? I don't know. Maybe SoFi gets 10%, Robinhood gets 10%, Schwab gets 10%, whatever it may look like. But if Robinhood could be framed as the de facto platform, and I don't know if Gerstner is going to have the incentive to do that. Gerstner obviously wants this to get passed, but he also is invested in Robinhood. And, it's hard not to read between the lines here and say, okay, Gerstner is invested in Robinhood. There's a reason Vlad was there at the conference yesterday showing off a demo. You could argue that Vlad and Gerstner have been talking about, hey, what would a demo look like? And then maybe there's a world where Robinhood becomes a platform that is the platform of choice, given it's Gen Z, millennial friendly, et cetera, super easy for parents to navigate. And maybe there's a world where it adds a ton of accounts. It's not going to do anything in the short term for the price, outside of just adding momentum to the sentiment around it. But it is something that could be a massive tailwind going in the future. And that's just something we're going to have to see over the coming years. But obviously, SoFi could get a piece. Robinhood could get a piece. I mean, so many companies could get a piece of this thing. And the real winners are kids, dude. Real winners are kids. If you had your kid after December 31st, 2024, up until 2029, this is a 4-year initiative. And if it's good, it'll probably be renewed in the next 4 years. They get $1,000. And so I'm just going to go have 100 kids and, get 100 grand. It seems pretty simple to me. But I think it's a relatively smart idea for the government to do this as well. Triple V, thank you for the $100 super chat again. Appreciate you, brother. Triple V, I told you guys yesterday his update on the market close. But for those that did not hear the update, he sold 1 million shares of Grab yesterday at 105. He sold 100,000 shares of Hims at 55.55. So he's out of Grabs and Hims, and he bought 1.3 million shares of Robinhood at $70.50, I think, roundabout, which means he now owns like 0.5% of the entire company, which is pretty damn incredible. So shout out to Triple V. He is continuing to deepen his conviction in this stock, ditched Grab, ditched Hims, and he is now much more deeper into Robinhood. So there you go. Another 1.3 million shares for Mr. Triple V. Yeah, Triple V is absolutely paying attention to what's going on Hood. I mean, dude, Hims could outperform for sure. Hims is obviously cheaper than Hood. It's just a question of, where your conviction is over the next coming months. And if we get to S&P 500 all-time high, I think Robinhood's getting closer to $100. We got not even just all-time high. We got to get to 6,500. That's my target. We get to 6,500. Bitcoin's closing in on 120. I think Robinhood's probably closing in on $95. It's just a question of if those two can happen over the next 6 months as well. So thank you, Triple V. Appreciate it. Thank you for being here. Thank you for the $100 super chat again. And continuing to deepen his conviction on Robinhood. All right, quickly, let's talk about Grab. So what did Grab do yesterday? Grab did two things. Number one, they put out a statement saying they're denying the GoTo acquisition, which I'm taking with a grain of salt. I think they're just doing legal mumbo jumbo to not have to deal with people asking them about the GoTo acquisition. And the reason I'm taking that with a grain of salt is because this is what they did after hours. Convertible notes, they're raising $1.25 billion. Look, so I was on the phone with Sachin last night. Sachin, again, heavy Grab shareholder. He's one of the people that introduced me to the stock as well about a year and a half ago. Both of us agreed there is no reason for the company to be raising $1 billion, $1.2 billion, if they have $6 billion in cash. Like, it just doesn't make any sense. It really doesn't make any sense. They say it's for general corporate strategic purposes, which includes, in brackets, acquisition. So the legal language of this SEC filing does say, hey, they could, use this money for an acquisition. So they as you can see right there, include potential acquisition. So they did include the terminology, which could open them up to being able to buy GoTo. But GoTo's rumored price, the Indonesian company they want to buy, is $7 billion. They have $6 billion in cash. They just raised $1.25 billion. 6 plus 1.25 is 7.25. That is enough that gets them over the hump when it comes to being able to buy the company outright and just pay the either cash or stock. Well, probably it would be cash because they're raising this $1.2 billion in convertible notes. So look, at this point, Sachin and I kind of came to a conclusion that we're going to give it until the end of Q3. So probably like November, and see how this is playing out. I still want to be bullish on the stock, but I don't want to be in my options if I don't see a move closer to $7 by the end of Q3. So by the end of November. And I don't want to be in options if I don't know what they're doing with the cash. Because at this point, they're going to have $7 billion in cash. It's just unfathomable to me that they're raising $7 billion to just raise $7 billion. That just doesn't happen, right? Like, they have massive shareholders from Uber to Toyota to SoftBank. You don't just raise $1 billion just to have it on the balance sheet, unless you're doing something with that $1 billion. Unless you are in advanced talks with an acquisition, you're getting to the finish line, and you need to raise the money ultimately to be able to get the job done. So that's my perspective here, and we're going to see how this plays out. Another perspective Sachin said is that maybe they're getting a lot more serious about financial services, and when you become an insurance provider, a loan provider, you need a lot of money on the balance sheet. And so one perspective here that is not the GoTo acquisition route for this company to grow, but rather the financial services route for the company to grow, is that financial services already is growing at 40%. If that starts growing at 50, 60%, and they need a lot of cash on the balance sheet to be able to subsidize all their loans, that could be one of the juiciest margin parts of the business that starts to become EBITDA positive, which obviously would reflect in a better multiple in the stock, along with their ability to continue to do buybacks. But the fact that they haven't bought back a stock in the past 6 months, to me, and they have $6 billion in cash to do so, to me means that they're not interested in a buyback. They're interested in actually doing something with that cash. The question is just what they're going to do. And we will find out. We will find out in the coming months to see how this ends up playing out. Sachin says GoTo merger will happen at a price of $8 billion. They will need to overpay for it. And so it might mean that they happen to raise $7 billion and then the balance goes into an equity strategic fund. Yeah, that could also play out as well. Austin says, I call the financial services play. I do think financial services is the gem of this business. The question is just, what they end up doing with this cash. So I'm giving it until the end of Q3, until the end of November. And I want to see till the end of November what this plays out with. Again, the chart to me is incredible, and it really does feel like it's getting ready to break out. It just needs to hold above that 540 level, but it needs a catalyst to get above that. And I think that catalyst is going to have to be some level of really strong earnings growth or some type of acquisition. And over the coming weeks, we should get a better understanding of it. UNH in the pre-market. So this is Chris's newest pick. UNH 303 right here. The dark pool orders on UNH have been pretty incredible. I've been looking at some of the data over the past 24 hours, and it's like there's a lot of people buying UNH in the dark pool. And I mean, look, I don't hate Chris's pick right here because I don't know enough about UNH as a company, but I do believe that UNH is undervalued, obviously at $300. And unless there's any structural issues with the business or there's any DOJ investigations, I mean, it's trading at like 5 times free cash flow. Like this thing is probably going to be closer to 500 in the next couple of years if everything goes okay. So I don't hate the pick at all. Question is just the opportunity cost of being stuck in it and waiting for it to move compared to some of the other AI names, for example, that are really showing momentous growth. But UNH right here again, it was topping out at 6010, now down at 303. Currently right now. All right, we got 2 minutes until the market opens. Real quick, we'll talk about Apple more, but I am pretty sad about Apple. So the biggest update from Apple is this. They have this new liquid glass thing, and this liquid glass thing is like their new display, and it's just weird, bro. Like it's really, really weird. So the picture that you're looking at right here is how the new iOS 26 is going to look, and a lot of people have just been making fun of it. This is legit what it looks like. And it's like this transparent, translucent way of showing off the display. This was the big update. And as you can see right here on my screen, this looks really stupid, bro. It just looks really bad. I mean, people are making so much fun of it. Here's a picture right here. You got the memes of people trying to figure out like what is going on right here. Dan Ives, super big Apple bull. Even he said yesterday, I'm giving them 9 months to figure it out. Because at some point, investors want to make money. And in order to make money, they need to see progress on a business that has big ambitions. In this case, Apple, that wants to be an AI leader. And what they showed off yesterday was nothing short of disappointing and lackluster. And I don't want to harp too much on Apple, right? Because their stock's already down from 250 to 200. Do I still think it's pretty expensive? Yeah, but I can understand people taking a risk right here at 200. But like this is kind of what we all thought going into the stream. We were like, they're not going to show anything exciting, and they didn't. And so I don't know what the broader growth story is. It's not iPhone, it's not watch, it's not glasses, it's obviously not AI or Series. So I think over the coming months, Apple's really going to have a turnaround to prove to investors that you don't just buy the stock for the buybacks. You're buying this for growth, and hopefully we end up seeing that growth over the long term. All right, here we go. Tuesday, June 10th. Thank you, everybody, for being here. 9:30 a.m. The stock market, once again, is now open. We are back in the studio, all bricked up. Thank you, everybody, for being here. Wake your ass up. Let's get into it. Robinhood, 73.34. Opens up flat on the day. Tessie, 313. That opens up relatively flat as well. It was at 315 in the pre-markets. Now it's at 313. So up 1.2%, but nothing too crazy. That one kind of just chilling in those 313 levels. NVIDIA, 142. NVIDIA also basically opens up flat. Palantir also opens up flat. SoFi opens up flat. Grab right here is down 2% based on that convertible note offering. Again, the street wants to know what they're going to be doing with that cash. And until they get clarity on that, that stock probably is going to stay range bound in those levels as well. Google right here, 176. That one's also flat, but holding above 176, which is nice to see. Meta, 697. That's just below 700. Amazon at 216. That's down about 0.5%. That one's also pretty flat. Microsoft is 472, 52-week highs, but that's also flat from yesterday. AMD, nice 5% move yesterday, 122 on AMD. Coinbase at 261. Apple's at 201. That is also flat on the day. Pretty much a flat opening on the broader market. Robinhood 73.70. Tesla now getting back up to 315. That's up about 2%. Where is the S&P? S&P is at 600. S&P's at 600. That one is also flat from yesterday. HIMS, we didn't look at it in the pre-market. HIMS is green. Okay, HIMS, 3%. HIMS momentum over the past week has kind of been, again, relatively stable. I think it's been, as Nate has been saying, it's been consolidating well in the 50s, which is a good thing for stock price movement. But relative to the rest of the market, HIMS is obviously cheap compared to a lot of these names, compared to Robinhood, Palantir, Tesla, NVIDIA. I mean, HIMS is objectively cheap. So it would not surprise me to see if we break above 65. Again, we had that crazy movement on Wednesday last week where it pumped to 67, that went all the way back down to 53. Like, that was just weird based on the Zava acquisition. But regardless, HIM's at 58, not the worst thing in the world at these levels. Where is VG? VG pumped 15% last week. VG 1628. Wow, the last time we looked at it was 14. That's up 4% of the day. So VG doing great. Robinhood going below 73 right here. NVIDIA at 142.04. That one's down. Grab again. Acquisition news or convertible note news, not the best for the market. That one's down 3.2%. Usually a stock tends to tank when they raise on convertible notes. The question again is what they're going to do with that cash, and that's what the street is curious about. Dell right here at 114. That's up 0.19. Rocket Lab, rumors are SpaceX losing some contracts to Rocket Lab. I don't think those are the best rumors to trade this stock on, but nonetheless, those are the rumors. Rocket Lab right here at 29.33. It did hit 32 yesterday in the market. In the pre-markets as we opened up. Bitcoin right here at 109.5. That's just below that 110 level. Duolingo at 499. Nubank at 1206. Where is Archer? That was up about 10% on Friday. Archer right here 1150. That's up 2%. Joby as well was up about 9% yesterday. Joby again is up about 3.5% today. Not bad. Eli Lilly right here up 2%. And then Reddit 117.94. That is green as well. Celsius 43. There you go. Celsius beginning a little bit of a breakout again. Celsius was the only green stock in the market when everything was red in the April tariff debacle. And then Celsius kind of stayed flat while everything rallied, but now Celsius catching up. Celsius, I believe, is up more than 30% year to date. Celsius is up, 60% year to date, dude. You took a chance on Celsius. You are up 60%, which is not too bad. The quantum name. So we did have that quantum debate yesterday with Qubit is up 10% right here with Tess and Skrelly. So D-Wave up about another 4% right here. Look, I think the debate was good just to get both perspectives from both sides. And at the end of the day, this is going to be a saga that continues for the coming years. And Skrelly wants it to go higher to keep shorting it. Tess, she said she bought D-Wave at 17. That was her last buy because she does believe it's undervalued. So you have two completely different perspectives in terms of how they think of this name. And so far she's been right and he's been wrong. And over the coming years, we're going to see who ends up being right on this trade. But the quantum name is continuing to get some momentum right here on the day. NVIDIA right here, 142. That one goes red. Tessie 313. That one's basically flat on the day. And then Robin at 73.53. That's down about 0.14%. And is also flat right now. NVO, Novo Nordisk, that one getting some love. That one right here, that is up 3%, 3.2%. And then Goog's chilling above 176. Google has been getting a couple upgrades I've been seeing. And people are starting to kind of move on from this whole search narrative. I mean, it's still an issue for them, but I don't think it's hopefully not going to be the biggest thing in the world. This is a picture right here. This was posted by the Wall Street Journal this morning. Business Insider, Washington Post, Wall Street Journal, and HuffPost. This is the traffic that these guys get from organic searches. And the Atlantic said, hey, we are expecting that we are going to have 0% of our traffic in the next 5 years come from Google. Pretty dramatic, but essentially they're saying we are trying to now optimize general intelligence platforms like a ChatGPT, like a Gemini, et cetera, to be able to get traffic because we're probably not going to get as much as we were getting in the past, even going so far as 2022 from Google organic searches. So as long as Google can play a role in being the platform that helps the Atlantic, the Washington Post, the New York Times, et cetera, get their traffic, even if it's not coming from search, but it's coming from Gemini or AI overviews, whatever it may mean, that would be relatively bullish for, Google as a stock and maintaining its momentum. But I think that's going to be the new focus that Sundar tries to get the street to believe in as well. MicroStrategy right here at 391. That one trying to close in on 400. TFC at $40. CRM at 271. ELF 117. That's up 30% over the past couple weeks. And then Amazon 216.68 on the day. VG is up. VG's having a good day. VG right here. Not sure why it's up 5%, but VG 4.87%. Again, this thing was $7 about a month ago. This one has had a pretty aggressive move. HIMS is red now. HIMS was up 3%. HIMS is now red. Okay, Tesla still up 1.4%. Palantir 132. Palantir goes green. And then Robinhood goes red. So Robinhood, HIMS, Grab, all those are red. SoFi slightly up just above that 14 level as well. World Bank cuts U.S. growth forecast by 0.9 percentage points to 1.4% in 2024, cuts 2026 forecast by 0.4 percentage points. So the global growth cuts that we'll see, across the entire global GDP, those definitely can have an impact on the market. But the Atlanta Fed said we're still growing at 4% in Q2. Now, that might be a little bit of a pull forward based on how bad it was in Q1, based on the tariffs and the imports, et cetera. But I don't know, man. If we can consistently grow at anywhere near 3%, I think that would be super bullish, even if the entire globe is growing at 1.5%. If the US can, Singapore is growing at 5%, India is growing at 7%. If the US can get anywhere near 3.5%, that would be dramatic for these stocks, especially these AI names that are participating in this growth curve. But we got to see. We got to see if that can actually get to those levels. ASTS is included in the Russell 1000, so that's a big deal for this stock. ASTS is up 1.5%. It was up 10% yesterday, so got a little bit of that pump yesterday, even though the news broke today. Then Rocket Lab right here, 2892. Rocket Lab is down 2.4%. Nebius is down. CoreWeave, by the way, Nebius below 50. That's down 5%. CoreWeave, the interesting thing about CoreWeave, down 7%, is they got a downgrade this morning by DA Davidson, and they said $36. $36. So they went deep into it, and basically they said, hey, like, there's a lot of depreciation, there's a lot of capex. People are buying this for no reason because the capex is 3x the revenue. It's not the profit machine that an NVIDIA is with 55% profit margin. So essentially the thesis in their downgrade was like, why the hell are people buying this? And I kind of agree. I don't know why people are buying these at this level. I could understand why people want to get exposure to AI data centers and the whole, trade around AI. Maybe they don't want to buy NVIDIA, but buying CoreWeave at 150. I mean, dude, NVIDIA is cheaper at 145 than CoreWeave at 150 by a lot. So it's just, I don't know. One could argue maybe it's just speculation, but it is getting some momentum here currently, or it's getting some momentum to the downside, even though it's been up for a while. Where is UNH? UNH right here, 303. That one also is slightly green on the day. NVIDIA 142, that one's going down, and then Palantir 132.66. That's up a little on the day. Robinhood trying to go for 74, 73.98. Robinhood up about 1%, trying to go back up for 74. AMD does have the event this week on Thursday. I'll be streaming it. So that could also be a catalyst for AMD, 121.73 right now on AMD. It's just FOMO buying. Well, it could be FOMO buying. In the top 10 stocks that were traded yesterday in the option market, CoreWeave was number 9 at 439,000 contracts. So, I mean, it's entering into the retail trade as a stock that retail looks to, but it's also entering the options market and becoming, a top 10 stock pretty much every single day at this point. Google 177. Are we breaking out a little bit on the Googs? Look at that, 177. 180 psychologically would be very, very important for Google to see. Google now year to date. Are we green year to date or are we still red? Year to date, Google's down still 7%. If you're looking for safety in this market and you don't want to overpay, Google's the obvious bet. The only issue is if that search revenue does become the narrative again going into Q2, because we saw Google pump before Q1, search was down, then it tanked. If that happens again and it's a replay of it, that could be something that the street doesn't really love. But in terms of pure safety, I mean, there's not a lot of stocks that are cheaper that also give you the moat that a $2 trillion company can give you, which is Google right here. HIMS green, or is this one still red? HIMS just went back to green, 1.74%. Grab goes down 4% here. Look, I think this makes sense. The street is wondering why are they raising 1.2 billion, and this is one of the things you just have to deal with if you are in this story, because if you're going to raise 1.2 billion but not do anything with the 1.2 billion, the immediate reaction is going to be, all right, so you're diluting shareholders. I have a belief they're going to do something with that 1.2 billion. Sachin and I, again, we talked for 2 hours last night. He thinks it's pretty obvious they're going to be doing something with the 1.2 billion. This ends up being, as much as I hate to say it, a buy the dip opportunity. The question is just, do you have the stomach to figure out and to be in the ride to figure out what they're going to do? I mean, just to say something very clearly, Grab is not a sure bet in terms of how they're going to execute with the capital that they have on hand. My bet is that they're going to figure out something pretty productive to do with it, which is why they're raising so much of it when they don't need to, right? If you have $6 billion in cash, you probably don't need to raise another $1 billion. But you got to believe in that thesis if you're in this one. And if you don't believe in that thesis, then there's plenty of other stocks. There's HUD, there's HIMS, there's NVIDIA. There's going to be names that have a much, much higher move. But if you have the patience and you kind of think there's some asymmetry, that's where I get more excited for this one. But I would agree with the street right here. It should be down 3%. It should be down probably 7%. No one knows what they're doing with this cash. And until we figure out what they're doing with the cash, the street's not going to be happy about it. Robinhood right here, 74, breaking above that. Palantir trying to get to 134 on the day, 1.3%. Again, we did get that new partnership with an Italian company. I don't know if that's the reason why it's pumping, but maybe just getting some general momentum right here. Up about 1.39%. Is Circle going down? Circle is down 4%. I don't think anyone can complain about that, given it's up 300%. I've heard a lot of people say they're just like upset that they missed out on Circle and they want to chase. I think this is where you have to protect your mental health, because chasing right here, could it work? Sure. But it's also like, when you don't have a thesis on anything and you're literally just chasing to chase, that's when you can get burned the most. And I missed a lot of runs this year because of not chasing, but I've also kept my sanity by making sure I don't go back to 2021 type of stuff of just chasing whatever is hot to be able to get in on it, because you just never know if you can time it. So I think like the same thing with Grab, right? You have a thesis, you stick to that thesis. Is there an opportunity cost of capital? Yes, you kind of define that opportunity cost of capital. My opportunity cost is, all right, by the end of November, I want to see what they're doing with the cash and then kind of assess what's happening here. But that doesn't mean I sell all my Grab and go into Circle at 110 to try to get them pumped, because, those things tend to not really work out as easily as people think. 134 on Palantir. We touched it for a second. 134.07 back down to 133.62. The New York Times stuff, look, it's still a concern in my opinion in terms of the brand on Palantir, and that could affect the stock, but so far it's not affected the stock, which is a good thing. I was on a Spaces yesterday with a bunch of people. Me and Kris actually were on the Spaces. If anyone wants to listen to it, it's on Chris's page. And Kris and I both were kind of tag teaming. I know Kris doesn't own the stock, but he's obviously still very bullish on the mission of Palantir. He is a veteran, etc. So he kind of understands what Palantir software is being used for. And it was so funny because we were texting each other during the Spaces and we were just like, these people are just like, it was these people who you could tell were a bit older, and you could tell they watch Fox News or something. And they were just like, well, Palantir is taking all of our data. And me and Kris are just like, okay, do you know what Palantir is? And they're like, it's the evil company taking our data. And then so we tried to educate for an hour and be like, all right, so this is what Palantir is. This is why they were created. This is why Wendy's and BP and Airbus are using them, all this stuff. But you could tell the average person on that Spaces that was asking us questions, it's like, they have no freaking clue what Palantir is. Like I asked one of the guys, I was like, why was Palantir created? He was like, oh, CIA. I was like, no, like why in 2003, why was the company created? He's like, oh, the CIA. I'm like, dude, the CIA funded Keyhole, which is now Google Earth. Like this is not like, no, it was created because Peter Thiel had an idea of using fraud mitigation technology from PayPal to stop terrorist attacks because we just had 9/11. It's like, but the fact that they don't even know that basic level of research, but they want to claim that Palantir is stealing all of our data, it just shows the level of ignorance in this narrative. And that narrative, I think, is, being propagated by people who are just afraid and they think Palantir is some big boogeyman. But I don't think this narrative is going to have that many legs, dude. Based on the quality of responses I was getting yesterday, this is just people reading headlines. This is not actually meaningful due diligence, and hopefully the street recognizes that as well. Palantir right here at 133, Nvidia 142, Tesla 311. So Tesla getting a little bit of a red candle right there at 315 to 311. Then Robinhood 73.78 currently right now. It's not ignorance, it's healthy skepticism. No, I agree. You should be skeptical. Like you should obviously have a healthy skeptical view of any government data platform that's existing. It's just when you listen to the Spaces. I encourage people to listen to it. There was one lady, so Palantir has a partnership with PSE&G. So they deal with like wildfires in California. And one lady was like, well, if Palantir has the data for the houses in the wildfires, doesn't that mean they can stalk all the people in California based on their electricity bills? And Kris was like, okay, great. Like, this is the first time I heard Kris be like, all right, so we got to back up here. And Kris was just like, what is going on, bro? Like, what's happening? So this is what I mean, bro. Yeah, she was talking about thermostats inside of these houses. It's just like, what is going on, dude? I think that's, it's not about not being skeptical. It's just about people just really running with a narrative because, they want to have a story to talk about. Google 178. Wow. We touched 179, folks. We touched 179. Are we breaking through? Are we freaking breaking through? Is this going to happen? Is this going to happen? Let's see. Oh, well, there you go. Back to 179. Shout out to Stock Mom. She was hosting the Spaces last night. She was awesome. She had me and Kris on the Spaces, and me and Kris hopefully got to give a little bit of a counter perspective to some of the things that people were saying about Palantir. But I encourage people to listen to it. It's on her Twitter right there, and you can check out the Spaces and listen to the entire conversation. All right, so Google at 179. Let's check resistance for 180, bro. Let's check resistance for 180. Let's check resistance. My calls on Google are up 6% on the day, which is nice. 180. Let's see if it's a really hard level of resistance, or can we break through 180? 54,000 shares. That's not a lot. 54,000 shares. That is really not a lot to break through. And then Robin at 74.13. Tessie a little flat on the day. And then Palantir 132. Okay, so it's already 180 on the Class A. So it did touch, or no, Class C. So Class C, you already have Googs at 180. So that means we touched 180.65. That means Class A should be catching up. This is what happened back when we were at 170. And we should see Google get to some of those levels. Nebby is still down 5%. What about the Waymo fire? That is kind of unfortunate that people burned down Waymos, but that shouldn't be a bear case for Google. That's just sad though that people burned down Waymos. I could only imagine if there were Tesla robotaxis, dude. Like they burned down the Waymos because they probably had no other car, Meta back over 700. But if there was a robotaxi just driving around, I feel like those robotaxis would have been an immediate target as well. MicroStrategy right here at 389, Coinbase 256, Nvidia 142. Currently right now on the day. OpenAI signs new cloud deal with Google for more compute power despite being AI rivals. Wow. Look at that. That's your headline, folks. There you go. Google and OpenAI coming together. This is where the diversification of Google's business is important. GCP, OpenAI saying, hey, we need more compute. We need more compute. A, that's super bullish for overall cloud computing, Microsoft, Google, Amazon, all those guys. But B, they picked Google over AWS and Azure in this headline, at least right now. I'm sure they're using them in other areas. But if they're picking Google for compute, maybe it's because of the TPUs that Google provides, maybe because the AI workloads that Google has a lot of experience, obviously, building, because Google has built their own AI products in-house. That could be part of the reason why OpenAI is working or deciding to want to work with Google. And that could be contributing to some of the momentum that you're seeing here right now. Yeah, there's the headline. OpenAI signs new cloud deal with Google for more compute power despite being AI rivals. I'm still crying over Palantir stealing your thermostat data. Dude, I was listening to that. I was like, I cannot believe someone's saying this right now. It's like, what? What? Even Kris, dude. Kris was just like, hold on. Like, what are we talking about here? But again, it just goes to show how much people are misinformed about this. And, it's a narrative that I hopefully don't think will have legs as long as people don't keep believing this stuff. IBKR right here is up about 1%. AppLovin also didn't get into the S&P 500. They're up about 2.75%. Again, Palantir 132. NVIDIA 142, Tesla 311. Tesla kind of holding flat at that 311 level. Grab right here at 475. Again, convertible notes, not going to be treated the best by the market. Google is the story of the day. Class A trying to beat back the 180 level. Google versus Apple, which will you pick within the next 5 years? I think Google's the obvious choice, right? I mean, Apple could outperform theoretically, but it's Google, dude. Like, Google has its own risks, but Apple is just like, dude, seriously, like, yeah, I mean, like, I was embarrassed for Apple yesterday, and I don't even own the stock. And I'm just like looking at their keynote, and I'm just like, this can't be real life. This can't be. This is what it looks like. It doesn't even look good. Like this liquid glass thing. Everything's so transparent that it feels like you can't even see anything. It's like, this does not feel like they really are trying at this point. Or they're trying, but they're not able to execute. And it's going to be a very tricky situation for Apple over the next coming years to figure out where the growth is coming from. Apple right here at 201. Apple still gets its premium because it's freaking Apple. But at some point, investors are going to be like, dude, if NVIDIA is growing 50% and every dollar, 50% of that is net profit for NVIDIA, why am I buying iPhones? Like, why am I like, dude, my iPhone is shattered. My iPhone, the back of it completely shattered. And I'm not going to be upgrading my phone. Because why would I? Like, it's 2 years old, probably in another year I'll upgrade, but like, there's no need. It's still a great phone. They've made the product so good. They've kind of cannibalized their own upgrade cycle. And remember in 2023, the big headline was, oh, they're going to be a super cycle of upgrades. There's going to be like 400 million people upgrading their phone across the world. Like, that never happened. Or Apple didn't put out a product that was enough to get people to want to engage in that super cycle. If you use the OtterBox, yeah, but then I wouldn't be living on the edge. I like having my phone naked because it's literally, you're living on the edge. You never know, at any moment it could fall and crack, and so that keeps you on your toes. I enjoy the excitement of living on the edge. To be honest, I've had my phone without a case for like 4 years. I just kind of like not having a case on it. But then it fell the other day, and I was like, oh, this is a nasty fall. So there you go. Uncle Clay's Orchard, thank you for the 1999 super chat. Why doesn't Apple have a humanoid robot? What are they doing? I mean, look, that's a good question, right? I mean, Apple should probably be engaging. And there are some rumors that Apple's been working on robots, but do we really think Apple's going to be Tesla when it comes to robots? Like, Apple can barely design a Siri that is somewhat useful, and it's still not useful. And the Apple AI updates yesterday did not show any level of usefulness. We think Tesla is going to lose to Apple in any meaningful capacity when it comes to robots. Like Tesla's not only built prototypes, they're building AI modules on those robots. They're actually training models for those robots. Even Google, I feel like with their Aptronic investment, would beat Tesla or beat Apple when it comes to robots. So I think if the thesis is robots, the Tesla is the obvious investment over Apple. Jack says, I'm using it right now. It's just an iOS update, nothing amazing in the beta, just a bunch of cool additions. It feels like there's an AI home with no one inside it yet. Yeah, that's fair. I think that is pretty fair. Apple couldn't even make a car. Correct. Apple could not even make a car. Where's HIMS right now? HIMS right here at 57.49. All the semis, are they going down today with NVIDIA? Let's see. The semis are... No, NVIDIA is the only one that's down. SMCI and Intel are also down slightly. But Dell, Broadcom, ASML, Micron, AMD, TSM, Qualcomm, all of these guys are up, even if NVIDIA is slightly down. NVIDIA was up 5% yesterday, though, so I guess slightly down right now. Siri did not know Apple was hosting WWDC. Yeah, dude, you can't ask Siri any question without like getting a response that's just like, what? Or it says, hey, like, I'll search the web for a response. And it's like, dude, I asked you such a basic question. And it's just not usable at this point. Like I use ChatGPT voice way more than I use Siri, which is insanity. I should be using Siri voice for everything. It's just not happening. It's just not happening currently right now. Uber and Lyft are green currently right now on the day. Your thoughts on rare earth mineral stocks? I think you've got to be very weary with the headlines. Like MP, for example, it can pump 10%, it can go down 10% pretty easily. So I think when we get the percent update later today with the negotiations in China, if they mention anything with rare earth minerals, that would be something where we have to look into, okay, what did we give up to get some concessions around that? But again, it's one of those things where it's like, it is very, very headline driven. But the headline should be positive in the coming hours if we get any level of concessions from China. So I think that could be a name that could definitely pump. But if there's not a meaningful concession, it's already pumped a lot over the past 2 weeks. That one could just easily sell off. Where's Lululemon? Still down. Wow, has not recovered at all. Look at that nasty drop, dude. 270 was that? Was that 3? It was at 336 on June 5th. I thought it was at 280. Wow, it's at 258. Man, that is aggressive, bro. The reason for this is just they took away their profit guidance because of tariffs and the uncertainty around it. But that's aggressive, 350 to 250. Did not expect that would happen. Nick B Investing, thank you for the gifted 5 memberships. Appreciate you, Nick B. Thank you for becoming a channel member. And thank you for the gifted 5 memberships that you have given to the channel. Appreciate that, Nick B. Thank you for being here. Sam Allman just said, we just dropped the price of O3 by 80%. Oh boy, that's definitely super freaking bullish for ChatGPT. Yeah, there you go. We dropped the price of O3 by 80%. Excited to see what people will do with it now. We'll do with it now. Think you'll also be happy with O3 Pro pricing for the performance. The only reason they're able to drop the cost this dramatically is because they have so much demand that they're going to make it up in volumes. And they know that if they just get the adoption of users with distribution, they're going to win when it comes to the overall marketing. So, yeah, look, it's bad for OpenAI in terms of the revenue, but it's great for just them to be able to collect as many users as possible. And then eventually they'll raise it over time and, they'll create that lock-in effect. But if that can exponentially increase more usage of ChatGPT, A, it's bullish for NVIDIA, and B, just means OpenAI continues to lock in their users at the end of the day. GameStop does have earnings tomorrow. GameStop has earnings today after the bell. And Oracle has earnings tomorrow. And then Thursday we have Adobe. But GameStop is going to be tonight. Yeah, ChatGPT is down for some users. A bunch of you guys said that in the chat. Let me check right now if it's down for me. Yeah, it's down for me too. It's down for me. Okay, so ChatGPT is down. Just bullish, bro. So much demand. So much freaking demand on this company. Or on this product that it's down. Lulu did not accept my pants return. They took my other shirt that I didn't wear, but I am now the proud owner of $115 Lululemon pants. And so I will be wearing those pants constantly at the end of the day. Yo, who bought the Tesla dip? Did anyone buy the Tesla dip yesterday at 280? I know Doug, I think he bought the Tesla dip at 280. It was there for like 5 minutes, down 4%, and then they started just like reversing. And then the Trump Elon stuff immediately. There you go, 316 on Tesla, up 2.5. Curious if anyone bought it. I had a friend yesterday, I think I talked about this, who sold all of his Tesla from 50. Yes, he sold it at 300. Tesla's at 316, so could have waited an extra day. But when I was talking to him, he was just like, dude, I don't even care anymore. I'm just like so fed up with Elon, which, look, I get. Granted, if your stock was at $50 average, I kind of would just like hold on to it like a lottery ticket. Same opinion I had with Jeremy, whose average was 13. But you do have some people that were like, I'm just fed up. But you have tons of people that are like, we don't care. We're buying this dip. And it's just hard to imagine Tesla getting back to that 220, 215 low in March, unless earnings are so abysmal. And even if they are, Elon's going to paint a good picture around FSD and people are going to buy into it. And I think that is why without Elon, I think the stock is nothing, because Elon keeps the hope and momentum alive, even if he also tweets about Epstein's list. And that's what keeps, Tesla elevated at these levels. Karan said I sold 275 puts. Yeah, Triple V sold 250 puts for this week, and he got paid a healthy premium for that. So it looks like we're not going to get 250. Peter said I bought some of the dip. EH said I bought some of the dip. Michelle said I bought 280. Arnie said he bought a little bit. Gab said I bought in at 285 a little bit. All right, so we got some people that took in some of the momentum or some of the downside on the dip, and now they're benefiting from the momentum. And a lot of you guys bought TSLL, dude. That thing has like 4 billion of inflows or something. Did not expect that one to be as heavy as it was. Let me check right now. But NVDL, which is the triple leveraged or double leveraged NVIDIA fund, that also has 4 billion. Never mind. TSLL has 5.5 billion AUM. That's all retail. That's all retail that is not letting go of the Tesla dip. Meta right here. Meta, we are at 699, just below 700. Just below 700 on Meta. Nike is green as well. Nike is 62.78. Nike's up about 2%. I don't think Elon got into a fight with Basent, a physical fight. And Trump also said he never saw it go physical. I think they got into an altercation, an argument. Do I think they punched each other though? Like, I don't know. I don't think that was the case. So I don't know how he got the black eye. Maybe it's from his kid, maybe it's not, but I don't think it's from Basent, bro. It's like Scott Basent's like a teddy bear, bro. We think Scott Basent gave Elon a black eye. It feels weird. Yeah, and Trump said he never saw it get physical too. So I feel like it's from something else. Again, Grab is red today for those that are asking, because they issued a convertible note, 1.2 billion. The bull case is that they're going to use that 1.2 billion to do something with the cash they have to make a pretty big move coming up soon. The bear case is that, hey, they raised $1 billion and the street doesn't know why. And so the street just sees it as dilution. So that's why the stock deservedly deserves to be down about 5% on the day. And question is just going to be how they communicate what they're going to be doing with that cash. MicroStrategy right here, 391. That's down on the day. AMD as well, 122.17. That is also slightly red. Do we have any other economic data today? Let's see. Tomorrow's the big one, folks. We got CPI. It's going to be a big one. Today, we have a 3-year note auction at 1 p.m. in the Treasury market. That one, hopefully the 3-year note auction is not as bad as the 20-year was 2 weeks ago. Robin at 74.16. And that is kind of the core macro thing that we have right now. Berkshire. Yeah, what's been happening to Berkshire, dude? That one's also been relatively just flat ever since 490. This one's been flat since the Buffett retirement, which makes sense, right? People were invested mainly for Buffett. Year to date, it's up 8%. It was at the 537 range, and then it's just been falling ever since. I think it's more about sentiment around the fact that Buffett's not leading the ship anymore. And also they are buying a secret stock that no one knows about. They've already invested $10 billion into that stock. They have special permission from the SEC to not disclose it. I wonder what that stock is going to be as well. But Berkshire has been vastly underperforming the other day. Doug says, I bought a few hundred more leaps on Grab this morning. Disagree. CPI doesn't matter because J Powell says he's going to cut no matter what the data says. Well, look, I agree with you. I mean, so CPI should be closing in on, I would imagine, 2.2 to 2.3%. Even if it's a little bit worse than expected, J Powell is inevitably going to have to give us a cut. I mean, we cannot have trade deals with China, Japan, and India, and J Powell still deciding there's going to be no cut. So June probabilities next week, 99.9% chance we're not going to get a cut. July, we are at 14% that we get a cut. September, we're at 53%. I think this might feel like deja vu from 2024. 2024, we waited 9 months until September, and then we got our cut. Maybe that happens this time. By the end of September, we would have inflation that hopefully falls off a cliff when it comes to shelter in particular, auto insurance, oil and gas, etc. And then we might have some trade deals baked in, which would get Trump to reduce the universal tariff rate from around 14% to maybe 10%. And that immediately would give Jay Powell, in my opinion, the freedom to be like, all right, it's time to cut. If we don't cut after all those things happen, if they happen in September, I mean, one would have to think it's a bit more political than not. Tesla right here at 317, because it's just like, what is the reason to be that restrictive at that point? And if there's no meaningful reason, then, I think that's not going to be the best for the broader market. But that would help Grab, right? That would be great for growth stocks. That would help Tesla. That's another reason why Tesla doesn't have to revisit the low 200s. I mean, you lower rates. That's great for growth stocks. That would obviously help Robinhood. I mean, that would help so many of these names that are contingent on, or not contingent, but they having a low rate environment definitely helps. They've obviously been able to pivot the businesses to not need a low rate environment, but it wouldn't hurt. And that would be super bullish for the broader equity markets, which is why I also think we could hit all-time highs by the end of the year, like easily, if we end up getting the rate cut. Google right here, 179.55. Google Class A trying to break through and get to that 180. Didn't touch it yet, but it is about 40 cents away to get there. Does the chaos in Los Angeles affect the stock market? Not really. It is something that's probably distracting the administration, and they have to navigate it and deal with it. I don't think it would be affecting the stock market outside of them burning down some Waymos, which, not the best for Google, but I don't think that means Google's going to go bankrupt. But I don't think it affects the markets. Like, if you have massive, massive chaos and turmoil and rioting, that's, more aggressive than what we've seen, maybe that can affect the markets, but I think it's kind of isolated to Los Angeles right now. And if it's not that aggressive over the coming months, then it wouldn't matter that much. Yeah, insurance stocks, it would definitely affect insurance stocks. That's fair. We did have the insurance ETF that went down yesterday. But outside of that, I don't think it would be the biggest issue. Oklo right here, is that one running? Nuclear stocks had a big, big move last week. Oklo right here, 53.83. That one's holding on to its momentum. SMR, that one at 36.77. Currently green on the day. All right, let's get an update from Apple and kind of what they showed off at WWDC. I talked a little bit about it, but let's get a little bit more coverage, and then we will keep going from there.
Already low going into yesterday. And Apple, I guess they didn't disappoint on that front. They were low for a reason, by the way. After last year's debut of Apple Intelligence at this very same conference, Apple failed to live up to its promises, most notably delaying that big artificial intelligence update to Siri. So Apple played it safe this year, sticking to software updates it can deliver on time. That means less AI and more of the general updates to the operating systems for iPhone, iPad, Mac, and all the other platforms out there. Analysts have been reacting this morning. It's not pretty. UBS saying more evolutionary than revolutionary. Wells Fargo, we think investors will still need to hear and see more, and so on. You get the idea. Biggest news had nothing to do with AI. A new design scheme. They're calling it Liquid Glass, which is based on the software design you see in the Vision Pro. Now, all of Apple's operating systems will have that similar look when you upgrade your software later this year. On the artificial intelligence front, some minor features. They didn't totally ignore it. That includes live translation, which automatically translates text messages, phone calls, and FaceTime video calls to your preferred language. Apple also expanded its partnership with OpenAI for visual intelligence. That means you can now read the content on your screen when you take a screenshot, and then you use that for a web search. We've seen that before from other device makers as well. And developers, they are now able to tap into the Apple Intelligence system using Apple's language models that run on the phone, though we'll have to see if they choose Apple's technology over the tools they're already using from OpenAI and so many others. Now, Apple barely acknowledged Siri during the keynote, only saying it still needs more time to work on that big AI update, and teased more announcements on that coming soon. So now we got WWDC behind us. We look to what Apple can do in hardware. It's bread and butter, of course. We're expecting the next family of iPhones to launch this fall. Maybe that can drum up some excitement, but Apple is signaling it's holding off on major artificial intelligence advances this year. But guys, its competitors, they're not going to be slowing down.
Yeah, Steve, I always...
All right, again, just not not that exciting. Just not that exciting in the context of Apple. By the way, bought the grab dip right here. So we bought 10 more calls, $7 2027. $7 2027 calls. These are my Roth. Added to that position, actually averaging down on that position at 120 a pop. Again, there are plenty of other opportunities in the market outside of Grab. If you do not want to be part of this story, you don't have to be part of this story. I see it as asymmetric. I could obviously be very wrong. And in the next couple of years, we will find out how asymmetric this becomes or not. But it's going to be a slow mover. I just think that the asymmetry on the slow move will happen all at once when it does happen. And that is, that's the thesis that I'm convicted in. But I could see Hims getting to 100 before Grab gets to even 7, just because freaking Hims is Hims, or Tesla getting to 380 before Grab gets to $10. That could easily happen. I just, based on the due diligence I've done, I think that there's a lot of momentum here. Also, if it's down on a convertible note raise, that's not a reason for it to go. I mean, like, that is a reason for it to go down technically, but that's not a reason for it to stay down. Like, that's just, okay, the market's upset that they're raising money. That's fine. If they're raising money for a good reason, then I don't think that's the worst thing in the world. Google right here, 179.53. That's up 1.95%. Again, what he said about Apple, liquid glass is the major innovation. Apple right here at 203. Just doesn't feel like there's a meaningful innovation that Apple put out yesterday. And we're going to see in the future if that, if that continues to be anything important. Yes, dude, people said Steve Jobs is rolling over in his grave. Dude, I think if Steve Jobs saw the liquid glass update as the big thing, I don't know, dude. That's just like more like liquid ass. Oh my gosh, bro. It was weird. It was just so weird. And then they shut down Tanner's stream and my stream. Navitas up 10% right here, breaking up above 8 to this thing, $1 to $8. I mean, congrats if you've been in it, but it had the NVIDIA headline that really gave it some momentum. Yeah, like they shut down our stream. They didn't even let us stream the event. And it was just like, it's just weird, bro. It's like they don't want anyone covering the event. They don't want people giving their own take and promoting them. Hims, by the way, down about 0.5%. And they don't want to introduce anything exciting for the market to even care about. So it was just weird. Like, I don't even want to update my phone to the new software if like I can barely see my apps. Like, it's just, I would not be surprised too if they pivot, because they're getting so much pushback on social media by people looking at this stuff and being like, what is this? Like, this is really what they want us to adopt? Liquid glass? Like, this doesn't even look like if I got a text message like that and it blends into the screen, it's just like, dude, it's like, it's not that serious. Like, I just need to read the text. I don't need to read the text in some way that blends into the, I mean, look at this look at this, bro. This is what it looks like. It's like, what are we doing here? It's just so weird. SMR, by the way, up 5%. Robinhood 73.94, Palantir 132, Tesla 316. Most of these stocks pretty flat on the day outside of Google. That's pumping up. Trying to get back to 180. When do you expect China news to come out? I think by the end of the day. I think and it wouldn't be any meaningful news, but it would just be if negotiations are going well, and maybe day 3 of negotiations would be planned in London. And if if we do get any meaningful level of analysis from Besant and Lutnick, then that could be a catalyst for the markets as well. So I think we should get those updates probably around like 3-4 p.m. Basically what we got yesterday as well. VG up 6%. This one getting some love. 1667 on Mr. Venture Global here right now. We have that CNBC headline that Disney is planning to stop reporting their subscriber numbers on Disney Plus. Disney right here up 1%. They have like 150 million subscribers at this point, so it's they're probably mature enough where they don't have to report it, similar to Netflix. But it does look like Disney's going to stop necessarily reporting all those specific numbers. JT, thank you for becoming a channel member. Appreciate it. Thank you for being here. Thank you for becoming a channel member. Just gonna have to keep the black wallpaper. My wallpaper is so basic, bro. Look at my wallpaper. Like, I used to like care about having a wallpaper that was like fun. It's just like, I don't even know what to call this. It's just like one of those default wallpapers. So I used to have like a bunch of like a colory wallpaper and stuff, but it was like too bright. I stopped caring about that. When you were little, you care about your wallpaper and stuff. Like, now it's just like, dude, I don't care. Just like so many things like aesthetically, I just don't care about anymore. I just want to use the damn phone. And I feel like Apple's like building products that get us to care about the aesthetics of the design. It's like, dude, people just want to know, like, is this useful anymore? I need bricks, 100%. That's what I need. I need bricks as the wallpaper. I need bricks. That would be a lot better. That would be a lot better. All right, let's get some updates on small business confidence and some macro stuff, and then we will keep going from there.
play too much into it. And it definitely, sort of leans in the pro-Trump era, region in terms of small businesses, but it declined sharply on the back of the tariff announcements, confidence that is, and it's coming back a little bit. And if you go through some of the components, guys, of small business survey, and this is soft data, this is what they're, responding to, it plans to increase employment, down 1 from last month. So not a big drop off there. And in fact, we saw nice increases and plans to make capital outlays. Remember all the concern that small businesses are going to pull back on spending because they're so worried about tariffs? Guess what? Came back a little bit. Economy to improve. 25% of small businesses say they expect the economy to improve. And that was an increase from the last month. They even think it's a good time to expand a little more. I don't want to, it's not like overwhelming optimism here, but it is a turn from what we have seen, Carl, after 4 straight months of small business optimism falling. Things are looking up. Markets rebounded. That certainly helps, right? And we've seen a lot of the confidence surveys perk up. Even some of the consumer confidence surveys perked up. So de-escalation in trade tensions, that helps. It goes a long way.
We are definitely keeping our eye on London today, day 2 of these talks between the United States and the Chinese. Lutnick yesterday seemed to suggest that they're spending a lot of time together. And the longer these negotiations go on actively, you would think it'd be more market positive.
Market loves the negotiating, right? And the talking. So as long as they're talking and they're negotiating, they're not increasing tariffs on each other and they're not walking away with high tariffs. So let's see what we get around.
Google gets 180, folks. There you go. Class A just touched 180. There she is. By the way, Robinhood, we got 15,000 shares at 75 to break above 75. There she goes. Class A 180 officially here. Psychologically, I think it's a big deal. I think it's a big deal psychologically to be above that 180 level, up 2.2%. This one has been stuck in the, I would say, 165 range for a long time. And now it's breaking out. And if this thing can, if this is the breakout, Google's fair value, I would say, being conservative, is closer to 195 if you just put a 20 multiple versus a 16 multiple on 2026 forward earnings. And then maybe that means Google's ready to go to the next level. So you got Google right here. Nice little breakout today. Congrats to anyone who bought the dip. 180, closing above 180 would be super, super bullish. That would be the market's anger. What could be happening right here as well, even though Apple's slightly up on the day, is the market's looking at Google as like the AI play over Apple. And, Google's always been an AI play over Apple, but the market really might have seen WWDC and be like, oh, Apple's really not going to do anything in the next couple of years, or at least that's what they're showing us. Google's at least doing something. Yeah, they have a search risk, whatever, but at least they're doing something when it comes to AI. No one can deny that Gemini 2.5 is pretty damn incredible. And that could be enough. That could be enough to pump it. So there you go. If you bought at 150 a few weeks ago, I think it got to 149 was the lowest when that Apple Perplexity headline came out, then you are doing pretty damn well with some momentum right here on Google. 180.17. Let's see how far it can go on the Googs.
Around that, I know rare earths has been sort of this sticking point, but for retailers, it matters so much heading into the holiday season because it's really hard to just divert shipments away from China, which they're doing, and they're still paying 10% more, for instance, from places like Vietnam. But these China talks matter, but there is an air of optimism in it, which is why I think the market continues to climb the wall of worry around tariffs.
Definitely happening today. Speaking of the broader market, let's bring in Goldman Sachs Chief U.S. Equity Strategist David Kostin, who joins us here on set. David, good to see you. Welcome.
Good morning. Nice to see you.
Are you sensing a legitimate reason for the market to grind higher?
Well, near term, there is some concern about the tariff uncertainty, but people are generally optimistic on the prospect that that's going to be resolved in a positive way. And so longer term, our expectation is the market rises maybe 9% or so, high single digit, maybe 10% when you include dividends over the next year. But near term, there's some uncertainty, and not surprising, the market has rebounded pretty significantly off of its low in early April.
Are you looking for the hard data to start to reflect the weak soft data of the last month or two?
Well, the equity market traditionally trades more on the soft data than on the hard data. And the expectation is that we've had a weak bout of soft data. Maybe some of that may be turning. So I referenced the small business optimism as an example, so the surveys. But the hard data is expected to weaken in the next, our economics team is expecting that to be weak in the next sort of month or so. If we sit here today in the mid part of June, you look out over the next sort of month to 2 months, we still have some uncertainty on that extension of the tariff. That delayed implementation goes through the early part of July. You have earnings season, which will start July 11th through or first week of August. So that's uncertainty exactly what the pricing actions would be in the companies in terms of their ability to maintain margins. The China delay in the tariffs, 90 days, that'll put you into early part of August. So we're sitting here in the next month to 2 months. You get some hard data will be weaker. You get some uncertainty around the earnings. The blackout period for company share repurchases basically ends later this week or early part of next week in terms of the month before earnings season, when companies are able to still repurchase discretionarily their shares. So these are some of the variables, the signposts we're looking at, clients are looking at. You look out further to next year, the economy is likely to continue to grow. We don't have a recession in the forecast. That's not the base case. And therefore, you've got earnings growth, 7% this year, another 7% next year. That lifts the market to around 6,500. 6,500 is roughly up nearly 10%. That's kind of the framework as we talk about it with clients.
So where do you think tariff rate? We're kind of under a month here into the 90-day deadline to make a bunch of trade deals, and we haven't seen much on that front, the UK. So how do you factor in what that's going to do to margins?
So when we think about it from a level perspective, the margins, effective margins in the United States averaged around 3% last year, and our economics team is modeling in something around 16% this, well, really into once those get implemented, probably 16%, about a 13%
effective
point
tariff
increase.
rate.
That's the effective tariff rate. So what do you do as a fund manager? One of the things we talk about with clients is around companies that have been able to generate high and stable gross margins. And so the idea, Sarah, would be those companies who have demonstrated over the past decade their ability to maintain those high margins. So you look at some of the companies, Kroger is an example of a company who's done that. You could look at GE Vernova. You can think about companies like Salesforce, IBM. These are companies that have demonstrated high and stable gross margins over a period of time. And we think that's a best indication of companies' ability to maintain their margins. Because right now, that is the central debate as to all these tariffs, if and when they may get implemented. How are they going to be? Who's going to pay for them? Is it going to be the supplier? Is it going to be the company who's going to absorb that? Is it going to be the ultimate consumer? And that is a subject of some debate. Different companies, of course, have different leverage and power in terms of pricing perspective.
Now, notice he's saying that margins will continue to be strong. Tesla right here at 315, Robin at 73.30. And I think that's another reason a lot of the suits are getting back into the stock, or into the broader market. Citibank, by the way, yesterday increased their S&P 500 target to 6,300. I think that's the first of many upgrades we're going to see. All these guys had 67, 6,800. They downgraded to like 5,200 after the tariff stuff. They are getting back to the 6,000s. And the reason for that is because of what he just said. Margins are good. Growth is strong. Tariffs are going to be dealt with in terms of the trade deals that inevitably put an end to the tariffs, or at least mitigates the extent of the tariffs. And then you've got this massive tailwind of AI. So where is I asked this last night on X, but where is the massive bear case? We've been talking about it for the past couple of weeks, but we went through a 20% drawdown. A lot of accounts lost 40, 50% of our, I think at the most, my account was down 36% at the very worst of it. And we've recovered pretty aggressively. But part of the reason we went down that much is because we weren't ever supposed to go down that much. Because the only reason we went down was because of these reciprocal tariffs that were never going to be real. And so it was just like a straight V-shaped recovery, literally, even if it took 1.5 months, simply because of the fact that Trump capitulated. And we might still get some pretty good trade deals out of this over the coming months, but that initial reciprocal tariff didn't hold up. And the bond market was part of the reason he capitulated. But the point is, if we already went through that, what do we have to go through again that would cause such a dramatic drawdown? And I can't think of what that thesis is outside of the labor market, collapsing. 10-year, by the way, 4.4. But the labor market's good. Non-farm payrolls were really good. And it's maybe that's just one piece of data, but it's not like we're seeing some dramatic cracks in the labor market yet. And if we do, we've got rate cuts to cushion the way. Now, hopefully those rate cuts are not too late. But the point is, there still is plenty of momentum that could keep markets elevated. Tom Lee called it. 100% Tom Lee called it. Austin said, I can't find the recession with a telescope. It's hard to see it, dude. It really is hard to see it. I put an order for a call debit spread on Grab, 557 June 2027. I don't hate that. Yeah, if you're getting a 38 cents, you're paying, your upside is 250, right? So 2.5 divided by 0.38, that's a 657% return if Grab is $7 in 2 years. Which, look, if it's not $7 in even 1 year, I think there's something completely wrong with the thesis. So that's what I mean by asymmetry, right? That's what I mean by asymmetry. Like, you need the stock to go from 470 to 7 in 2.5 years, and you can make 650% on your money. This is why I get it. This is why I'm excited for the name. I don't need the name to do that much. In my opinion, in my spread, I need to get to $10. So I need to get a double. But even at these levels, from 470 to 7, it's not that dramatic of a move for a stock that's been stuck in consolidation for 4 years and eventually is going to break out if they do anything with their cash on hand, which they might not. Maybe they're just raising cash to raise cash and nothing happens, but I kind of doubt that. And so to make 7x on your money for a 30% move on the stock is not easy, but that's the whole nature of asymmetry at the end of the day. Why cut rates if everything is good? That's a good point, but like, and I don't think we're going to get rate cuts if everything is good until the end of the year, where inflation drops so dramatically that Jay Powell cannot deny anymore that the restrictive real rate, if inflation's at 2% and we're at 4.5%, almost double what inflation, it does not make sense to be that restrictive. And so you don't have to cut rates if everything is good, but you also can't keep things artificially restrictive just for the sake of being restrictive. Because then you do risk something breaking. And Jay Powell's smart enough to at least understand that. So that means, it could be deja vu like 2024. We don't have to get a rate cut until the end of the year, but when we do get cuts, it could lead us into that Santa Claus rally, which would be, very, very effective. How many times do we have to say Tom Lee called it before we actually start listening to him? Dude, he's really has called it for the past couple of years. I mean, he even said Tesla would lead the V-shaped recovery. And Tesla's not been the only one who's outperformed in this V-shape, but I mean, 220 to 315, one of the most speculative stocks in the market, boom. It was one of the leaders of this V-shape. So it's not too bad. Amit, assuming you sell all the Grab options by Q3, is the idea to convert to shares? Yeah. So like by the end of Q3, if I don't get a move closer to $7, at that point, I just sell the options and convert them to shares because I'm long-term bullish and I want to have the stock. Also, what I was talking to Sachin about last night, Grab to him is a safe play. And although it's speculative and it's risky, the reason he says it's safe is because he's already so heavy in SoFi, heavy in HIMS. He's obviously heavy in Palantir since $6, that the downside to Grab to him is so limited, given it's trading at 30% cash. And that, he's expecting a big move coming on this one, that he's just like, this one feels safe to me. This one feels like a name that I can just keep there and not have to stress about. And so I have no problem owning the shares of Grab. It's just I don't want to be on the timeline for options if we're still stuck at $4 by the end of the year, which is possible. I don't think that's going to be the case, but it could happen. And so we would reevaluate by the end of Q3. Nebius, is that one still down? It was up 5, or it was down 5%. That one down 2%. All right, so that one recovering a little bit here right now. Everything is not good. Housing market is screwed. Housing market's definitely weary, to say the least. And Kris has talked about it a lot, especially in the South and in this country, what's going on with home prices. I agree. The housing market is one of those things that could turn into, not 2008, but could definitely turn into something that we need to focus on in terms of creating potential pain that could affect the equity markets. Obviously, private equity, I think, is having a little bit more of an issue. Tesla right here, 316, Robinhood below 73, NVIDIA 142. But I don't know if it's a thing that crashes the entire stock market, And ironically, rate cuts is what's going to help the housing market. But, we need to get those rate cuts for it to unlock all that liquidity to flow into it. Can you talk about SoFi for a bit? Sure. So SoFi right here, first of all, breaking above 14. I like that. It's holding above 14. I still believe this stock is 20 by the end of the year. I have options that would do very well if it gets to 20. I do think I'm not the biggest fan of the execution of the company, but even I can acknowledge the growth rates are absolutely exceptional. Even if the margins are not, the margins will eventually catch up to the growth rates and the stock should appreciate. So, yeah, I don't love the leadership of the company. I don't love the execution, but that does not mean I think the stock deserves to be anywhere near $10 or $11. And so does it get to 20 by the end of the year? I don't know. Does it need rate cuts to get to 20? I don't think so. I think there's enough organic growth that it doesn't need the tailwind of refinancing student loans and mortgages to be able to get to that $20 range. And if we have a Santa Claus rally where we do get at least one cut and the S&P's at 6,500, it's going to be hard to imagine SoFi's not at least at 18. The reason I say 18 is because that's where it was in January. So I think SoFi still has upside from here. Absolutely. There are some people that think it has exponential upside. I don't know if that's going to be the case. And if it is, that's amazing. But if it's not, then I still think 14 to 18 is going to be a decent move. And we shouldn't be, too afraid of I wouldn't be afraid of selling puts at SoFi. Like at $12 puts, $12.50 puts, like same thing with Grab, right? Like I wouldn't be afraid of selling a $4.50 put because what's my downside? On SoFi, really, what's my downside? I'm going to $10, 11, really? And if we do go to 10 or 11 bucks, even I would buy SoFi. That was no, that's cheap. Like it's cheap for their actual organic growth. So I think it's in one of those situations where it's relatively de-risked as long as Noto keeps executing, and Noto has been executing. It's just the market's not loving the tech side of the business, which eventually, hopefully, their narrative can change as well. Why is Hood dropping on news? I mean, Hood's not dropping on anything. You got to remember, Hood, dude, it's pumped a lot, dude. It's up 100% year to date. So as much as there's bullish sentiment on the markets, InvestAmerica, all the stuff that Vlad was talking about yesterday, the thing is up a lot. And I'm actually surprised we're not at 65 based on not getting into the S&P. Like the fact that it's holding above 70 is starting to show me that there is some real momentum holding up the stock and people are buying in on any dip. I mean, I bought the dip yesterday at $70, if you even want to call that a dip. But yeah, Hood, I don't think we can keep expecting that much more out of it. At this point, it needs good earnings. It eventually needs S&P inclusion. If it goes up, I'll be happy, but I am not going to be scared if it falls back into the 60s because, even that is still an incredible return right now. India-U.S. talks held on market access digital trade, reports coming out by a U.S. official. Okay, so that would be really good if we start to get any momentum in the India talks. We already know that China talks are starting to heat up. Japan talks. Japan's coming next week to the United States and to Canada. India is the next one that we got to see if we can get that one to fall. VG 17, bro. Look at that. 8. Does anyone know why VG is up today? I don't know why VG is up, but it is up. Shout out to Chris and Matt. Looks like it's just technicals here. They had a deal for natural gas last week, which is why it had a 20% move. But don't know exactly today why that's green. But it's up. There you go. Venture Global. 1705 on the day. Oh, Bitcoin drop-ins bringing Hood down. Yeah, that's probably the case too. Bitcoin's been holding above 105 pretty nicely for the past 2 weeks. So if that thing can hold on, that would obviously be very bullish for Hood. The one risk to Hood is that we get a little bit of a crypto winter, right? Like people just stop trading Bitcoin because crypto is still a majority of Hood's revenues. That is definitely a risk that I could see be bad for them. But if we're going to continue to be in a relatively strong bull market, crypto is also going to get some tailwinds. And then Robinhood has that event on June 30th for crypto coming up. Tessie 313. Down from 317, but still up above 300. Yes, we will have Technical Tuesday today. We will have that today with Jason. It'll be a long show, and we'll go through all the different technicals as well. Amit, if you have 100K amount in cash, which stock do you think it's important? It's an opportunity to open a new position. All right, so I'll ask the chat that question as well. If you had 100K in cash, what stock do you think is an opportunity? The way I would approach that is, again, I really would split it up. 5 stocks, 20K each. I wouldn't go 100K in one stock. In this market, if we were in April, I would go 100K in one stock because the deals were so amazing. But in this market, I would split it up. I really would. I would take my bets, 20K on 5 different names, and kind of let it just play out. Okay, so the names I'm seeing in the chat the most, I'll just read off the names that I'm seeing the most. I see a lot of Google, so that would get the first 20K. I see a lot of NVIDIA, that would get the next 20K. Seeing not that many Palanters, a couple Palanters. I know Palantir at 130, dude, it's just a little bit aggressive here. And so I probably would wait maybe for like the 115s, 120s if we get there, or I would just sell some puts. But outright, you're not getting a bargain at 130, just given it's basically at all-time highs. I see Hoods. I wouldn't hate Hood just because I think Hood is still cheap and there's momentum. SoFi, I don't think it's crazy either to put SoFi on that list of those 5 stocks. Cause again, it's a bit more, SoFi is definitely cheaper than Hood. It's de-risked, right? Even though, Hood could still outperform. Roblox. Okay. So I don't know if I would put it in Roblox because that's also trading at all-time highs, but Roblox is at an incredible performance as well, dude. This thing was $24 back in, what was it, end of 2022 or something? No, even end of 2024. No, May of 2020, it was $30. It's at 92. So Roblox, just 3x. It's one of the best performing stocks over the past year. Incredible performance. I probably wouldn't put another 20K in Roblox here at all-time highs. I would try to find something, a little bit more undervalued. Yeah, maybe AMD. AMD is down from 220 at 120. It's not the deal that it was at 77, but in this market, I'm looking for picks that are de-risked. And AMD to me is a bit more de-risked. SoFi is a bit more de-risked. NVIDIA, obviously it's close to all-time highs, but NVIDIA's growth, you can't deny that. And so I would think NVIDIA's good. Google, a lot de-risked compared to the multiple if you can get rid of the tailwind or the headwinds of search. And then if you want some more growth, then you can get into it like a Robinhood, and a Reddit. These are a lot more risky. But if you're looking for a growth side to that 5-stock portfolio, I don't think those are great. Even HIMS, I wouldn't mind putting that 20K into HIMS. Because HIMS is cheap compared to a lot of other growth stocks that, easily could get back up into that $70 range if they see momentum. UNH, I don't think it's crazy either, right? Again, de-risked. I wouldn't hate putting it into Grab. You just got to be patient on that one. I would not put it into IWM, bro. There are people saying that small caps are now going to be the trade. I don't know, bro. This is the one thing Tom Lee has just not gotten right. And maybe he will be right, but remember, he was calling for 300 on IWM by the end of 2024. That did not happen, and I don't know if we see 300 on the IWM anytime soon. The problem with Russell is they're crappy companies, like they're undervalued companies. But like, who would buy any stock in the Russell compared to Nvidia? It's like no, like anyone buys Nvidia, unless you think Nvidia is just going to not outperform any of these small stocks in the Russell. But that's just asking for a lot, in my opinion. So. I don't think small caps is the trade. And have you noticed people don't talk about small caps anymore? Like in 2024, Tom Lee got a lot of us thinking about small caps, and people started thinking about, hey, is that a move? But it's just not something that people are excited about. TLT, yeah, I don't hate TLT either for part of that 20K, part of that 100K. Eventually, these yields have to come down, so I don't hate TLT here either. I would not put it in CRISPR, bro. I don't like the CRISPR thesis. Like, I believe in it, but if you buy CRISPR or this like genomic revolutions ecosystem that Kathy's been preaching about, you got to buy it and just like not look at it. Because I don't see those as massive growth industries over the next couple of years that will result in stock appreciation. I think like they need a lot of advancements in AI and R&D and obviously pharmaceutical drug discovery for it to really play out. But like ARC-G, for example, I wouldn't mind holding that for the long term, but I would not buy that for like a diversified portfolio that I want to see returns in a year. I would buy this for like, all right, maybe 10 years from now. It results in some level of momentum. Tom was assuming that we would get a rate cut that we never got as a part of his thesis on IWM. Yeah, that's fair. Now, we did get 4 cuts towards the end of 2024. And, IWM really didn't benefit a lot from that. I think it's just because the big got bigger, right? People just got excited about the Max 7 even more, even though we had a little bit of a haircut to start the year. And they said, why would I be in small caps versus the Max 7? Even though he's right on the PE estimates, like small caps are, egregiously undervalued compared to the Max 7. It's just, there's not that much excitement. And he doesn't talk about it anymore because I think he's also realized, it's just not that good of a trade. So, you don't get all of them right. But I think Tom just realized like Tesla, even at 315, is more exciting than small caps because Tesla has real momentum because of AI, because of the tailwind of FSD and Robotech. All that stuff is a reason why people would allocate capital in different places. PayPal, I mean, look, I wouldn't be upset with that 100K going a little bit to PayPal. It is one you could sleep well at night on, I think. Like, the reason I say I think is because, yes, they're not growing, but they're buying back so much stock that you would just think eventually the market realizes you can't fade this, even if it takes more time. And so I don't hate PayPal here either. What do you think of PLTY? So I haven't looked a lot at PLTY. I have MSTY. Got the first dividend the other day. The problem with PLTY is Palantir is at all-time highs. And so if Palantir is to drop at all, PLTY is going to get crushed. So the hard part about it, same thing with HOOY. This is the Robinhood Yield Max. It's like when you're buying these when the stocks are at all-time highs, if the stocks tank, you know, you're going to be sitting on some dead money here. And then if the stocks recover very quickly, your upside is going to be capped via the covered calls. Tesla right here at 314. So that's the only qualm about a PLTY, but their dividends are incredible because Palantir call premiums also have become amazing. Depends on what you want for income, Misty, or I just put it into SOXL. Yeah, I mean, another thing is, you know, the 100K, part of that going into Misty and getting some income is not horrible. Or potentially leveraging up with the semis. Is Netflix still at all-time highs? Netflix 1200, Netflix 1198. Okay, so just below 1250 that it was at. Okay, what if we wanted to be degen with that 100K? If we wanted to be degen, what 5 stocks would we do with the 100K? I feel like we got to put a good old GameStop in that list, right? Put GameStop up there. Fubo, the acquisition with Disney and Fubo is complete. They bought out the whole part of the business yesterday. I think they reported that it was done. So that is relatively good for Google, I guess, or for Disney. SBET, yeah, that's dude, sharp linking. Ethereum treasuries, folks. That's what got this thing up from $2 to at 1.127. My goodness. Now it's back down to 30. Again, chasing this stuff just becomes tough. Circle. Yeah, there you go. Quantum names, you could definitely put that up there. It's definitely a bit risky right here. MSTR, can put it in there. Grab. I guess Grab has basically become degen at this point. So we're putting Grab in there. Trump coin. Yeah, there's a lot of degen bag 7s that we can invest in. Well, Figure is not public yet, but I guess you can say, dude, I don't know, dude. I think Figure is going to be a good one. I think it's going to be a good one. It's going to take some time, but there's just no other companies that have put out the type of videos that Figure has put out when it comes to robots, dude. And so until we see any updates from a lot of the other companies, Figure right now, I would say, is in the lead, just in terms of the public perception of like, hey, their robots are actually working. Now, granted, Tesla's going to win this game and probably be number one because they have the manufacturing. And even if Figure has better AI, which that is still questionable given Tesla has so many resources dedicated to AI, Tesla can make 100,000 of these tomorrow if they really wanted to. Figure can maybe make 1,000. And they would have to put in a lot of work to make 1/100th of what Tesla can make because they just don't have the supply chain. So I think this is Tesla's market to lose, and I don't think they're going to lose it. But if Figure is even number 2, you know, it should be a big market for them. We don't have any updates on China-U.S. negotiations that'll happen towards the end of the day. Nothing yet. But right now they are negotiating, probably as we speak at the moment. 100K in PP. Dude, I don't, maybe Kevin doesn't have PP anymore. It's not a thing. He is back to his market open. And the one thing I didn't notice that he's doing on his market open, which, look, I love Kevin, and part of the reason I do this market open is because he inspired me to do the market open when I saw him do it years ago. But I didn't realize what he's doing with his market open now is an 8-hour live stream. And I'm all about working hard, bro. But I feel like that could lead to some burnout if 8 hours a day you're talking continuously. Like, it's just, at some point, the audience is also going to just be like, you know, I'm sure a lot of you guys would love if I stay 8 hours a day straight. But at some point, if it's like hour 4 and I'm like not having the same energy I had for the first couple hours, you would also not want to tune in. It's just like, it's diluting the experience. So I don't know if he's going to be able to keep up 8 hours a day, bro. That's a lot, dude. That's a lot. Like I do basically 2.5 hours in the morning and 2.5 in the afternoon, but I have those 3 hours in between to collect my thoughts, get my ideas, think of new topics, right? Like you need some of that creative time to be able to figure out what the next approach to the stream is going to be, to just get topics. And I cannot imagine sitting here for 8 hours straight and having to just like come up with ideas. So I don't know, just like from a content creating perspective, I think he can get burned out pretty easily by that. And you know, we've seen this with Kevin many times. Like he comes back, he has a big idea, he works really hard at it, and then in like 2-3 months, is like it's over because it just burns you out. Like you have to protect yourself from burnout. As a creator, your ability to even do this for a living is being creative, which means you need to have some mental level of stability to keep creating. I just think 8 hours a day is a lot, dude. I think it's aggressive. I think it's a bit too aggressive. But, and there's some streams it calls for it. Like I've done 8-hour streams when it's like a busy day and you have all these earnings and you're going back and forth, yada, yada. But like every single day is just like, there's a reason CNBC has 1,500 different hosts, right? It's because like they move on from guest to guest to guest. YouTube streaming is a little bit of a different experience, but to do that for 8 hours is not the easiest thing to do. You are lazy. Yes, exactly. I am lazy. Yes, I have had multiple 8-hour days in this market, but there is a break in between from the market open, market close. 8 hours straight? I don't know if I could do that every single day, bro. That's just a lot. And I definitely think I would be up for the challenge to do it, but I also think the experience would not be the best if I like force myself to be there for 8 hours. You know, you want to be there on the days where it's really important to be there. We got Bob Iger, Disney CEO. Let's see what Mr. Iger has to say on the Hulu acquisition or the Hulu completion of their full control. And let's see potentially if he talks about Fubo as well here.
Swear. Well, let me start, David, by saying that this is a business, our streaming business, that lost $5 billion in the year prior to my coming back. And we're going to earn over $1 billion this year. So $4 billion in the year prior to my coming back. We're going to earn over $1 billion this year. So we've got a $5 billion turnaround. And this step is the first big step in the direction of turning this into a real growth business for the company. We were prepared, if necessary, to pay more for this, but the third-party appraiser appraised it at a price that was closer to our evaluation or the bank that was evaluating this business for us. Had the bank, the third-party appraiser, come up with a number that was closer to Comcast, this could have cost us $5 billion more. So obviously, we're very pleased with this result. But now we're focused on doing what we intended to do once we gain full control of this. And that's basically to put these apps together seamlessly, to create an experience for the consumer that's easier to use, easier to buy, to increase engagement, to lower churn, to grow subs, and ultimately to consolidate more and to save some money in terms of the operation. So we're very pleased with this result.
Yeah, I would imagine you would be, given it is, again, far less than perhaps certainly our parent company Comcast was hoping that they would get, although at the end it's still almost $9 billion for them in terms of the overall stake. You mentioned direct-to-consumer. Last quarter, which was only a few weeks back, you delivered $336 million in operating income from direct-to-consumer. You mentioned Hulu now being a part of overall this plan. So what do you do once you own it? What do you actually, what is the consumer going to see perhaps that's different, Bob, than currently in terms of the offering you're making to them?
Well, we've already bundled the apps in a way that is, I think, really easy to use with ingesting the Hulu product onto the Disney Plus product. But obviously, this is a step in the direction of putting these apps together fully, making basically not only a seamless experience for the consumer, but as I said earlier, essentially a one-app purchase. And that's clearly important for us because with a combination of the great quality branded programming on Disney Plus and with the great value that Hulu provides with not only volume in terms of general entertainment, but quality, this is a great combination. And this is, again, a big step in the direction of us enabling all of this and also turning Hulu into a more global brand as part of the Disney Plus offering. And then in addition to that, we've got ESPN coming with a direct-to-consumer product toward the end of this year. And
yeah, I don't know, bro. I'm not excited for Disney. Is anyone excited at all for Disney? This name has just never been one of those names that I think deserved a ton of attention by the broader market. It's up about 5% year to date. I mean, Disney had a great run since 2005. Bob Iger, legendary CEO. But like, who picks Disney over NVIDIA? Dude, remember when Verizon was outperforming NVIDIA and we were thinking about by the end of the year, is Verizon going to be up more than NVIDIA? Thank goodness that didn't play out. NVIDIA is healthily beating Verizon. But the point is like Verizon, when it was beating NVIDIA in February, it's like, okay, it had its moments. Disney had some moments, but
Who picks Disney or Verizon over? And this is the reason why Tesla gets their momentum. You're not picking Disney over Tesla. You're not picking Verizon over Tesla, even if Tesla has an aggressive multiple. You're not. I don't think a lot of people are picking Disney over a Robinhood. Like, there's just so many exciting catalysts to these growth stocks that can, again, grow compared to a Disney, which is a mature business. It's a great business with the parks business. I mean, that's one of the gems of the business. But it's not one of those things where you think, man, Disney's a generational investment. It was 30 years ago, and that's just not the case right now. Who watches Disney Plus every day, or has their kids that watch Disney Plus? I haven't turned on Disney Plus since Christmas, when we were watching a Christmas movie. Actually, no, that's a lie. I watched High School Musical 3 a month ago, and I needed Disney Plus to watch that. So I did use Disney Plus there. But I'm just saying, like, it's like what investors are actually allocating capital to Disney? You know, like, where is, that doesn't mean people are selling if they've held it for a while, but what new money wants to be excited for that name? I don't see that overarching thesis at all. All the time if you have kids. Yeah, I mean, if you have kids, for sure, I think that makes sense. And that's probably why you still pay for it, just because it's great for the kids. Granted, YouTube Kids is becoming a really big product as well, and that gets a ton of attention. But if you don't have kids, I mean, how many people sit down and just watch Disney by themselves? Outside of, you know, if you watch High School Musical, that's it's like, dude, people are sleeping on those on that series 1, 2, and 3. It was a good run that High School Musical had. It was just funny that High School Musical 3 came out in 2008, and that's when the economy was collapsing. All these high schoolers are dancing, singing, jumping up and down, and then, you know, mortgage-backed securities are being sold to banks that are getting collateralized and then being defaulted on. Like, it was kind of funny when you think about what was happening in 2008. Are you buying Uber here? I'm not buying Uber. I do think Uber's had a great run from, I think it was below 60 in January. The robo-taxi stuff for Tesla, we got to see if we get some clarity on that and what that means for Uber as well. But, like, is Uber cheap? Yeah, dude. I mean, and it was really cheap, and it was at 60. Bill Ackman loaded up a lot of it. I think, what is it, 30 million shares. Uber market cap is what, 170 right now, 180. Yeah, I mean, to say Uber is not going to get to $250 billion market cap over the next year is, I feel like it's very possible, even if it takes a couple more years to get there. But Uber's not going anywhere, unless robotaxi just comes out of nowhere and starts taking rides from Uber. But that's just, you know, it's going to take time. So I don't hate buying Uber right here. I just personally am not doing it. Between Uber and Google, though, I would buy Google. Like, both are incredibly undervalued, but I would be deeper into Google. VG right here. Shout out to Chris. He's there in the chat. 17, baby, on Mr. Venture Global. So shout out to anyone in the VG landscape. Nike's up 3%. That is correct. Google, are we still above? Did you ever buy Target? No, I never bought Target. I like it, but same thing with Uber. Like, I like it. I just, like, I don't want it. You know, and is it undervalued? 100%. Uber is, I would buy Uber over Target because they're actually growing. But I've been allocating to NVIDIA and Hood more and more, dude. That's like been the number 1 and 2 position I've been just continuing to add to. Google right here, 180. Let me check resistance at 181 on the Googs. And we'll see if it's actually going to make a run even further. 181 resistance is, oh no, we hit 181 already. Yeah, we hit it. Okay, so 182. There is no resistance at 181. 182, 23,000 shares. 23,000 shares. And then we can get above that level. You know, the woke narrative on Disney, that was an issue in 2023. I don't know if that's that big of a concern anymore. Like, I don't see people talking about that much around Disney. But yeah, I don't think it's a headwind like it was a couple years ago. I'm not excited about Disney Plus or S&P above 6,000. There you go, 601. There you go, up a third of a percent right here. I don't know if Mickey Mouse is going to be relevant in 10 years. That's my issue with Disney. And I don't know if they're making any, you know, core IP that's going to differentiate them over the long term. As a parent, it's still a concern. That's fair. I mean, that's very fair. You know, I'm not a parent, so definitely don't relate from that perspective, but I could understand the fear of a show popping up and just not being the best show for a kid to watch. Okay, so S&P is above 6,000. That's very nice. Again, we don't have any China update. We're going to be getting that later throughout the day. Yeah, they own Star Wars and Marvel. The thing about Marvel, like, are the Avengers going to be relevant in 10 years? Like, is Iron Man going to matter in 10 years? You know, and will that industry, will that movie franchise be able to keep building on top of what they've already done? I don't know. I'm obviously not the most educated about it because I'm not the biggest movie connoisseur, as some of you guys know, but still, you know, in 10 years, is that the IP that really is going to matter? You guys are saying yes? Really? You really think the Avengers are going to be relevant in 10 years? Didn't they do Endgame for a reason? Isn't it over? Isn't the Endgame done? I Love You 3000? Like, boom, it's done, right? Like, are we really going to care about Iron Man in 10 years? It's already been 10 years. It's been since 2008. It's been more than 10 years. Okay, why would we care about Iron Man in 10 years? For everyone saying we're going to care about it. Like, why? Are they making Iron Man 7 or something? Like, I mean, why are you guys saying OMG? What are you talking about? Like, why would Iron Man be? Are we going to make like, they haven't innovated on Iron Man anymore. I don't see Iron Man 4 coming out anytime soon. Isn't he dead? Didn't he die? The last one? Like, how are they going to keep making new ones? No, dude, don't give me nostalgia. Okay. Nostalgia's fine, but 10 years from now, nostalgia is not going to be the reason why the stock pumps on Iron Man stuff. Dude, come on, bro. You can't tell me the Avengers is still going to be relevant in a decade. Like, will people, like, reflect on the memories of the Avengers? Sure, but, like, is it going to be making money for Disney? I don't think so. Dude, you guys are so passionate about this. Oh my gosh. I've actually seen Iron Man 1, 2, and 3 multiple times. Actually, like that is part of the Marvel franchise that I've actually seen multiple times. I think Iron Man 1 I've seen at least 7 times. Like, I've seen it a lot. I've seen it on airplanes and I saw it with my cousin. She came over last year. She's a huge Marvel fan. Like, she loves Marvel. But I don't know if it's gonna last 10 years from now. Like, I can say no one's gonna care about High School Musical in 10 years. Now, granted, I'm not comparing High School Musical to Iron Man. I'm just saying, like, in 10 years, this IP that Disney's built up such a moat on, I just don't know if it's that relevant. Like, there's Netflix shows that no one's going to care about in the next 10 years, right? Netflix is going to have to keep making new content. I feel like Disney still has that burden as well. Google right here, 180, Robinhood, getting a nice 2% little dump. Let's see if it goes below 70 today. And Tesla holding strong at 315. Okay, so here's the question. Would you rather buy Disney or Netflix over the next 10 years? Because I think it is so obvious what you would buy over the next 10 years, even if you think that the Avengers will be around forever. I think it's Netflix. It's so obvious it's Netflix. The Avengers have been around for 15 years. Star Wars is 45 years. There are plenty of legs on that franchise. But who cares about Star Wars right now? Does anyone really care about Star Wars? Like, do kids care about Darth Vader and Luke Skywalker? I don't think so. I don't think people care about that anymore. like, come on, bro. Do we really think these franchises are? Yeah, all of you guys are saying Netflix. I agree. All of you guys are saying Netflix. It's fair. It's very fair. I don't know, dude. I don't know if these things last. Granted, I've never seen Star Wars. I get it. But, like, just objectively, like, are they still relevant a decade from now? Kids love lightsabers. That's fair. That's true. I don't watch Star Wars, but you're underestimating the nerds. I might be underestimating the nerds. That's fair. But, like, I genuinely, I can't in my head fathom that Iron Man people care about it that much in 10 years, unless Disney really builds on that plot or that Avengers thing. And, like, dude, hold on. They had Endgame. Am I not wrong? They finished the series. Like, they had an ending to it. Am I not, like, what is the next step then? Like, or do they bring characters back to life and they like what exactly goes on from here? But I'm pretty sure they had a big ending to it. I was just like, generally, I'm like, okay, so they ended it. It's done. We're going on. And they need some new type of content here. The Walt Disney stuff has resulted in a lost decade of IP. None of the stuff they made in the last 10 years is ever going to result in a popular ride at the parks or a reason to take a cruise. Yeah, and that's the other thing. If you don't have the IP, you don't have the parks, you don't have the cruise business. So you kind of need the IP to be relevant for a long time. And you need new IP to continue making it relevant. Kris, good morning. How are you?
Good, man. Just feeling a little bit under the weather. Just have a headache. I haven't slept well in a couple of days. I had just between work and other things. It's just, yeah, I gotta just sleep it off today.
Okay, before I ask you about VG, what are your thoughts on Disney? You think the stock is relevant for the next 20, 30 years?
Yeah, man. These guys, they generate a lot of free cash flow, and they're gonna keep generating a lot of free cash flow. To some degree, they were actually underinvesting in content in Hulu, because the more valuable they would have made Hulu, the streaming service, the more they would have had to pay NBC Universal with regards to the appraisal process. So if the appraisal is out of the way now and they're done with it, it's likely that Disney will do more to invest in content creation on that route. And, if you look at the statistics, Disney plus Hulu actually does have a pretty big subscriber base. And I think over the next few years, their margins will keep going higher and higher. I mean, it's just how the streaming business is. Like, you get all this content, you put it online, you stream it out, and you collect revenue from subscriptions, and now you get ads as well, and you can do targeted ads, which is actually monetizable even more. So
Do you think Disney's IP, like the Avengers, Star Wars, all this stuff, do you think they're going to be able to keep that going for the next
yeah,
decade?
man, totally. I mean, I think what you're thinking of is a few things like like Avengers and stuff, which I think is geared a little bit more towards the adult audience, but there are billion-dollar franchises sitting within the Disney ecosystem that are just huge. Like what's the thing called with Elsa and Frozen, the Frozen franchise, Lilo and Stitch, all of these things, when the movies come out, dude, they still generate like billions of dollars in not just revenue from movie sales, but also from all the other things that come along with it, like merchandise, toys, and everything else. And all that IP you can monetize. Bluey, you can monetize that for the next 100 years, man. So I don't think that Disney's core assets are necessarily as appreciated as the market thinks right now. And I think that's by decision by the Disney administration to make sure that they really undercut themselves a little bit when it came to Hulu, so that this way they didn't have to pay an excess amount of money to Comcast.
Yeah. I guess they're not, given, the momentum with movies like Frozen, you're saying they're going to be able to keep replicating different forms of new types of stories that get people excited, because Frozen was a big hit, but that was 10 years ago. And you're just saying every 10 years, they're going to have like these big one in a lifetime hits that creates all this merchandising and IP licensing and et cetera.
Yeah, and their businesses in the cruise area is actually growing significantly also. If you've ever gone on a Disney cruise, those things are like super, super expensive, yet they're always fully booked out. You go to the theme parks, there's always people there. I mean, they have no issues with park attendance, and they can still keep, building more parks. They have the Disney Imagineering part of their business, which can create new parks, and those things are once again monetizable like there's no tomorrow. So yeah, man, I'm just saying, like, Disney makes really good money with their franchises. Like, another one that's coming out right now is with Robert Downey Jr. coming back as Doctor Doom, for the next like series of Avengers. That'll be another interesting thing to see. And so I think Disney, over a good period of time, they'll be able to generate a lot of cash flow. One of the main reasons why Disney's kind of underperformed a little bit is because right before COVID, they kind of spent a little bit too much money on their acquisition of Fox. And at the same time, there was this giant transition from linear TV to streaming TV. And they used to monetize very well with linear TV, right? So if you guys remember, like, back in the, it doesn't sound like back in the day, but literally 5-10 years ago, most of the money that Disney was making, like in terms of pure profit was from its affiliate channel. So you would go to like the quote unquote Disney channel, or you would go to this other channel and Disney would run ads on it in between. Like, let's say you're watching a TV show and you would see ads in between that. Well, Disney was able to monetize that a lot. And the cable providers were actually paying Disney a lot of money too, because, if you wanted to carry Disney channels on your network, you would have to pay them, right? So they were making a good amount of money. The thing is, though, not a lot of people watch linear TV anymore, right? So that's the main thing. Now, on the other hand, the streaming part of the business is very scalable, as Netflix has demonstrated, and people have higher price points that they can actually afford streaming services. And I think Disney recognizes that, and over time they'll keep slowly.
Would you buy the stock though?
Yeah, I have the stock.
When did you buy Disney?
A long time ago. It's something I discussed on my Patreon a while back. I mean, I don't have a lot, to be honest. Like it kind of like lost a little bit of luster for me. But now that this Hulu thing is done, I think I'm gonna redo my evaluation on it to see where we can end up with this. But yeah, I mean, they're doing everything right. They're generating cash flow. They're paying down debt. I do wish that they hadn't had some issues with their succession plan, with from Bob Iger to Bob Chapek. I wish they would have actually put someone else in charge of Disney. Someone that was, I thought it was going to be a clear leader. I forgot their name, Kevin Meyer, I think. But they're back in Disney right now, so the leadership could be a little bit better in terms of transition, because Bob Iger can't be there forever. And I think also there is another layer when it comes to Disney not being quote unquote the woke brand anymore, because that's kind of losing the popular culture a little bit. And so I think over time you're going to see Disney, return back to its roots and actually provide more, more profitable franchises that are not based in activism, activism or something like, what I mean?
Yeah. Okay, VG, why is this up 6% today?
I mean, it's a great business. It's literally a toll bridge business. So I do think it's starting to get, closer to its fair valuation. So it's not like I would recommend anyone's like go hardcore and chase it like there's no tomorrow. But if you have enough patience to hold this really, really long term, this thing is going to do really well for you. It generates a lot of EBITDA right now. It does have a lot of debt, and so under that business model, you front load a lot of that debt, but as that cash flow starts to come in, you're able to pay down the debt and return value to shareholders. So if you look at how much EBITDA these guys are generating this year, it's about 6.6 to 6.8 billion in EBITDA. And that's only going to grow to like 8 to 10 billion in EBITDA in the next few years as more facilities come online. And, a portion of that EBITDA is going to go to debt repayment. Part of it is going to go to CapEx. Another portion is going to go to dividends. Another is going to go to share buybacks. And it's a great, like, up into the right business model for a good portion of time. And yeah, me and Matt have spoken about this for like at least a year now, and some of the prices that we paid were a little higher as well. So we're kind of catching up. But when this got down to the sevens, man, it was nuts how cheap.
Oh, the thing is, a lot of people got to discover it at the sevens when you and Matt were talking about it, which is, they're up double. It's not bad.
Yeah.
Google 180. You think this one heads to 200?
Yeah, I mean, fundamentally, Google's a great business. I know a lot of people are saying search is dead and search will become irrelevant. My thing has always been, there are parts of Google search that are monetizable, and then there's other parts that are not monetizable. And I think AI is disrupting the non-monetizable parts. And the monetizable parts are still going to do really well for Google. So as an example, you're not going to go to ChatGPT and be like, let me get the 5 best restaurants in this specific area and show them to me, right? Like that's something that people still go to Google for, where you just type in Google, like find, restaurants near me, and you look at the times, you look at the Google reviews. All of those things are just very easily monetizable. The other day when me and Matt, impromptu, we were planning on a trip to Mexico. I just went to Google Flights. It took 2 seconds, and once again, that's a monetizable feature. Go to ChatGPT and be like, "Hi, I wanted to get a flight to blah blah blah." It's
why does everyone say hi when they go to ChatGPT? I do it too. I'm like, hello, and then I ask a question.
Yeah,
it's like I'm trying to be nice.
So yeah, I mean that, and then Google's other businesses are also like really making good amount of money, man. Like their cloud business is driving a lot of growth ahead of it. Its ads business on YouTube is still another thing. And then you have all the subscription business that Google has. And then now you can monetize a lot of those AI features. So, the amount of people that are using Gemini Pro and everything else is growing by the day. So, the one thing people forget about Google is that these guys are very innovative. They've invested a lot of money in their innovation part of their business. And they always seem to keep coming up with more and better ways to generate more and more return for their shareholders. And of course, there's that massive share buyback that they have. You can't beat 75, $80 billion a year going straight into share buybacks. Like that really encourages a lot of upward momentum in the stock.
Yeah, I would agree. All right, Kris, final question for you. China talks look like they're somewhat progressing nicely. We got the Japanese Prime Minister coming next week. You kind of think this momentum just continues if we get these deals?
Yeah, I mean, I hope so, because on our side, I'm seeing a lot of issues with regards to unemployment starting to make a big problem for the U.S. I think people are not necessarily anticipating the amount of disruption AI is causing among the white collar workforce, and I think that's going to start to show itself in the latter half of this decade, where there's going to be so many positions that are going to be sort of evolved into more, I don't want to say AI centric, but basically it's going to be like working with AI. So those efficiencies are going to come at the cost of people transitioning from where they currently are. And, not everyone's going to be able to transition. So that's going to be a problem, So I think right now we're in this phase where everything is still feels like it's Goldilocks, but if you really look under the surface, unemployment is starting to rise, and the numbers sometimes can look a little distorted, and that's something that we have to pay attention to. So if you look at like the jobs report, people looked at the jobs report and said, "Oh, look, everything's hunky dory, everything's great," but then you look at the labor force participation rate. So people in long-term unemployment, they just kind of dropped out of the workforce. Right. So that's not good. And then on another hand, people forgot that we revised almost 100,000 plus jobs for the last 3 months.
Yeah.
So all of these negative revisions, all this other stuff, and then businesses themselves are saying, "Hey, we're in a drive to push for more efficiency, and AI is going to help us get there." So that's actually a bull case for a lot of companies out there, where AI can actually work in their favor and actually cause higher future margins, right? And that could lead to better profits. But what's the cost of that? Of course, that's the cost. The human capital is the cost of it. So.
All right, Kris, last thing I want to show you is a video the White House just posted. I want to get your reaction to this video.
I'm Brad Gerstner. I'm with InvestAmerica.
Hey, Vlad Tenev here, CEO and co-founder of Robinhood.
Hi, this is Dara Khosrowshahi, and I am the CEO of Uber.
This is Congressman French Hill, and I represent Little Rock, Arkansas. And it's such a pleasure to be at the White House today with President Trump and hear about Invest in America.
Invest America is an initiative that will give every child born in this country $1,000 to begin investing at birth.
This is the type of thing that's in this important reconciliation bill, this big, beautiful bill that we need to get past the Senate to really have that impact that we need for so many Americans.
We're incredibly thankful for President Trump for his support of these initiatives that are going to Main Street and America and helping everyday people succeed.
In my view, this is a key reason for all members to come together and support the big, beautiful bill.
The White House knows how to do some marketing. Kris, your reaction to that?
I mean, I wish they had done this about 20 years ago, right? If they had done this, believe it or not, one of the people that advocated for something like this was George W. Bush, and a lot of people laughed at him. So let me tell you the story. What happened? George W. Bush came up in the year 2000, around 2000, and said, "Look, one of the things that we need to do is long term. We need to save Social Security." And bro, he got fought tooth and nail in Congress because one of the things was, hey, let's not just invest in like treasuries, let's actually put some money to work in the actual general market and like things like index funds. And so people said, no, you want to privatize Social Security, you want to steal money from everyone, and it kind of went nowhere. And if you look at the returns that the Social Security got from its treasury holdings were completely underperformed something like the S&P 500, which went up like 4x, right? So had we actually gone the George Bush route, right now, Social Security, we wouldn't even have a problem with regards to the trust fund. Everything would have been hunky dory, And people don't realize that, but other people took advantage, like Norway Sovereign Wealth Fund. They took advantage of it. Qatar Sovereign Wealth Fund did the same thing. The Saudis did the same thing. And that's why their wealth funds are freaking enormous right now. And who's it on the back of? It's on the back of, American corporations doing really well, but the net benefit came to these foreigners and not to us. And we could have been one of the biggest beneficiaries for it. So it's kind of sad that what happens with politics is that even though like certain good ideas can come about, people will throw out like a boogeyman and, fearmonger and basically take things down. And legislatively, they end up failing. And, we all, I don't want to say we all like are not better for it. It's just a missed opportunity.
Do you believe this is a form of quantitative easing?
What is?
The giving $1,000 to, like, people are saying it's like socialism and it's this and like, how do you feel about the idea of $1,000 to every kid?
Not really. I mean, to me, it's like, this is more educational than actual like giving people real money. $1,000 at the end of the day is not a lot of money. The point is, it gets people to think about investing way before they're supposed to. Like most people in this country, they don't even think about investing in the stock market and investing in general and well into their 30s when they're actually making some disposable income.
Right.
But if you have this account that you've seen over the last 20 years grow because you've contributed to it and it's constantly grown and it's done things, you're more likely to keep saving and investing, and that money just keeps compounding on itself. And by the time you get to a certain age, it's like, wow, look, I did this because I didn't just go out there and spend all my money on dumb shit. Like I actually saved and now I'm better for it. Right. So I think this is more, and hopefully this is something that becomes a part of our educational system as well, where people are actually taught very early how finance actually works. Like what is interest? What is a loan? How do you what is a credit score? Like these are the relevant things they should be teaching in school, rather than like, hey, let's take Spanish 202 and, learn how to say, I'm going to the biblioteca.
Dude, you just brought me back to high school. That's a library.
I know. You don't know how many useless classes I took in like my wife was talking about it. We're like, how many useless classes do we take in high school? And they didn't teach us really anything. Like I would have actually learned more about carpentry, about how to like, how to properly use like a stud finder. That would have been way more relevant to me than, I don't know, learning about some Chinese emperor who might have had like an affair or something in advanced Chinese algebra. I mean, I get it. We have to be well-rounded people, but I think there's so many practical skills that should be taught in high school and before. I mean, like my school, we never had shop class. I don't know why we didn't have shop class. And I hear stories about people like, yeah, I went through shop class. I'm like, oh, that's interesting. Like what, like with females, like girls, they had, they would go to something like home ec, like those are the kinds of things that you actually learn that actually you could use in the real world. Just, I don't know. I don't know the education system where we kind of strayed away from practical, useful things to just being indoctrinated into a certain set of curriculum. And basically that's the way to go. And The other thing also that I wasn't a big fan of, now I look back and it's like, if you go to college, you are going to be successful. And I think that really set a lot of people up for failure, because there are so many like people that go through college and have like a completely useless degree, and now they're also saddled up with so much debt, whereas they would have been in a much better position had they just gone and done an apprenticeship in something like HVAC at the age of 18, started making money in their early 20s, and now by the time they're 30, they're already like like a journeyman level 3 and making 120, 130K, maybe 150,000 a year. You know?
Especially if the degree is to get a white collar job and then AI takes away the purpose of it. I mean,
Yeah.
if software engineers to an extent could be commoditized, I mean, I can't imagine other types of white collar knowledge workers.
Yeah. So, I mean, I personally, I think the German model is probably the one that you want to adopt when it comes to education. So the Germans, they actually, one of the things that they do is Germany has this very strong labor union culture. But one of the things I do like about it is that they have massive amounts of apprenticeship programs in Germany. So, like a company like Mercedes-Benz, they know that they're going to need future engineers, right? So what do? They actually go to the local high schools, work with them to get them to a level where they have apprenticeships, so that, when they get out of school, they actually have a place to go and they actually learn about things. So, like, that's what I'm saying. Like, a lot of these corporations, like, you want people to, everyone says we need more engineers. We need more engineers. So incentivize the companies to train the next generation of workers, and get them to a level where, you've got people with real skills.
Kris, last question for you. We got this breaking news. Meta's spending $15 billion and taking a 49% stake in Scale AI. I don't know how much you know about this, but it's a data labeling company. Any insight why Meta's chalking up $15 billion for this?
I mean, I don't really know too much. All I know is Alex, the guy, the CEO of Scale, he's a freaking smart ass dude.
Yeah.
Like, he's been invited to multiple things. Just listening to some of these guys, maybe this is like you're taking a bet on that guy rather than maybe just the technology. Like, I don't know much because, Scale is not a public company. So I don't know like what kind of like a major thing they have that really fits into the ecosystem for AI. But I'm sure the Facebook knows what they're doing when it comes to
15 billion. They're only spending 70 billion on capex sales. 15 billion is a lot of money. I mean, I don't know if they're doing it all at once, but the point is that's a decent chunk of capital. They must see something in this Scale AI thing.
Maybe. Yeah, maybe.
Yeah. All right, cool. Kris, thank you so much. Appreciate it.
Just a couple of things. Someone asked about Amazon in here. Yeah, man, Amazon's a great business. The one company that I would say outside of Google that I absolutely love to death is freaking Amazon. I think they have so many verticals that they're climbing that, and the thing is, they have this massive moat around their business that's just impregnable, dude. And there's no way that you can even confront Amazon and say that they're a monopoly, because they just have, they're literally like a platform business with like advertising layered on. They've got, AWS, which serves as compute business. Then you've got now Project Kuiper, which is coming out, which is another thing. Amazon just has a very, very well diversified business where they're using all of their excess free cash flow to invest in the future. And if you want to buy like a company that's just, like a buy it and kind of forget it, it's Amazon, dude. And the leadership over there under Andy Jassy is just very high performing. They also have a lot of AI resources that they can call as well. It may not be like the Googles of the world, but they're still very, very efficient at what they're doing. So yeah, Amazon is definitely another place that people should be looking for, and keeping their portfolio up.
Are you touching Tesla at 320 or no?
No, man, I want Tesla to drop down to below 120.
Okay, I don't think you're getting that, bro. That's a little aggressive.
Why can't I get that? Why?
Dude, I think the TSLL got $700 million of inflows last week. I think this cult will not let this stock get below 200, bro.
It did in 2022.
Yeah, but the whole market was, like if we're in a bull market, I don't think Tesla's going that low. I really don't.
So I think if enough fundamentals start to deteriorate and we start to see like negative prints and net income and well, not so much operating income, but at least net income, then I think we could get there. If you look at their gross margins are coming down significantly, and the verticals of the humanoid robots and full, robo taxis, they are further away than a lot of people think.
Okay, but they've always been further away. So my question here, like, I agree with what you're saying, but if the numbers didn't hurt in Q1, the stock, and the Trump Elon thing, let's say that's a dud, right? No one's really going to care about that. It'll be resolved. Then why does this thing need to fall below 200, even with a crappy Q2, which I agree is probably be crappy.
I think that people are just very, very optimistic about the robots and everything else. And Elon does do a good job of keeping that optimism high, but then there's also reality, right? And the thing is, Tesla, even outside of this spat with the Trump administration and everything else, Tesla's numbers have been deteriorating, and I think that is something that's going to weigh in on the stock price. I mean, yeah, there's probably going to be a lot of volatility, and I might actually consider like pulling some triggers when it gets to like 200 and below. But I do think that a pullback is warranted based on just how it's operating as a business in terms of profitability. And people with a long-term time horizon, you'll make good money eventually. So I think Tesla over the last 4 years has proven to be a really great trading stock for those who are patient, waiting for the dips, buying, and then when things get really toppy, just selling and waiting for the next pullback. And I think I think we're gonna get the pullback. Maybe not to 150, but sub 200. I think it's a real possibility.
I agree. It's obviously expensive at 320, but sub 200. If the S&P is at 6,500, dude, I don't know if this thing could really just pure momentum wise. You know what I mean? Like if it is a momentum trade, I don't know if it gets that low. I could see 250 again, realistically, if the earnings are really bad. But last time it was at 220, we pumped to 330 after those earnings. Just because the whole markets ran up.
What was the lowest it got in the last 2 years?
212. Well, 2 years, $100 in 2023.
Yeah, I mean, this goes to show that there's definitely points where it's gonna take its dips. I mean, it went from literally December this year, it went from 479 down to 249. I mean, that is a huge drawdown, and now it's back up again. So I think Tesla's had multiple drawdowns. I mean, even in June of 2024, what do you think the stock price is? It was in 224.
Yeah, it was like 170.
Yeah, 150.
Yeah.
April 19th, 2024, it hit 150.
Look, it's a fair point. I wonder if Tesla's able to get to those levels again if we are in a raging bull market. Like, are the fundamentals that bad that the market's like, we're going to buy anything other than Tesla? And I don't know. I really don't.
Yeah. I think one of the things is when it comes to companies like Tesla who are going through a transition right now, as much as you want to be an optimist, you have to be a little bit of a realist and say, look, this is a $900 billion company that's net income is actually on the decline, And one of the things that I think we're going to see is Jeremy being proven right, in which case he'll probably buy back in again. I mean, I will say this though, his transformation to being like an anti-Tesla person, that really did take me for a surprise, because he said I wouldn't touch this piece of shit under 170, and I was like, God damn, Jeremy, oh, it's like, what happened?
Dude, something pissed him off because he was in the stock since 13. He's been a support for Elon forever, and now he's calling it a piece of shit. It's like something.
I'll tell you exactly what it is. It's the same thing that's happening in the chat right now. This Kris guy is a schmuck. I'm getting all sorts of insults hurled at me for trying to be reasonably and logical. So, the at some point people are gonna have their breaking point, and they're just gonna be like, yo, fuck these people. I'm telling you, the worst thing that I've ever seen is the fucking Tesla cult member. Like, God, bro, they just you could say, oh, I really like Waymo, right? Yeah, but what about FSD? It's like, bro, I'm not even talking about FSD right now. You could say, oh, I took a Waymo ride and it was really smooth. Oh yeah, but FSD's better. Like, bro, there's no even car out there right now with a robotaxi. Just chill out, man. Y'all are annoying as fuck, and that's why people get frustrated. It's So the cult is just on another level. I mean, it is what it is, man.
And to be fair, I think there's a lot of reasonable people in the Tesla community that are able to engage in debate, like a Farzad, a Sawyer Merritt, etc. But then you got these anonymous Tesla accounts that have like an Optimus bot as their profile picture, and they will go toe to toe and try to kill you.
All you said this weekend was, hey, I have some friends who are like, hey, I just want to be out of Tesla because I don't want to deal with the volatility with all of this back and forth with the Trump administration. Bro, this dude started being like, oh, look, this guy's spreading FUD. Like, all you did was just share your personal opinion. Not an opinion. That's not even an opinion. You just shared your experience, and people were coming after you on Twitter. Like, that's the part that gets me a little bit, which is y'all are just, God, bro. I'm telling you, if Father Elon said, look, I've got this red Kool-Aid. It's delicious. It's going to take us all to Mars. I bet you half the cult would drink that shit with no problem, man. They'd be like, yes, Father Elon, you know.
Yeah, I mean, this dude got this. He retweeted my Brett Figure video, and he said, "Isn't it a coincidence that Amit did an interview with Figure AI, posted their video yesterday, and then started fudding Tesla right after?" First of all, this interview was posted in March, so I don't know why he said yesterday. Am I overthinking of it? This thing got.
They're not even competitors.
They're not even. The Figure is 1/120th the size of Tesla. And you got all these people in the comments saying, yeah, you know, this is really, dude, the amount of people that have DM'd me based on this guy's tweet, this random account with Optimus in his profile picture saying that I'm, spreading FUD. The amount of people that have DM'd me, I cannot make this up, that are saying, hey, Amit, can you disclose if you are paid by a hedge fund to short Tesla? This is insanity.
The one thing is, everyone who does know you, though, there was a lot more defense that came, in the comments of that thing. A lot of people said, no, you like, Ahmed's just being objective, and he's just saying what people are thinking. Like, there's a lot of people who are Tesla bulls, but at the same time, they just don't want to deal with the volatility that comes with the current, situation with Elon having a back and forth with the president of the United States. Some people feel that that's a big risk that they don't want to be part of, and they just want to hang back a little bit, and that's not bad. And bro, I've bought Tesla before and I've sold it, so I think Tesla, to me, it's a great trading stock. It's got the volatility. If anything, maybe, it's got the volatility. Me, I'm patient when it comes to this. If it drops below the 200 mark, I'll consider buying some, and then, we'll see where things go.
Dude, it was hilarious because then someone under the post shared the Elon retweet of my FSD video, and the guy was like, "That doesn't matter. He's getting paid by the hedge funds." And I'm just like, the way to rush to a conclusion, to just assume any level of objective analysis is like hedge funds are paying you to short Tesla. But here's the thing: it goes to show how deep the religion is. And although there's some really toxic elements to that, I don't think this thing goes below 200 when that religion is that deep that people will sell a kidney to just buy more Tesla stock.
Yeah. Someone was asking in the comments about GitLab. Honestly, that's a Sam question. Sam is a lot more into the tech stack than I am. So, he's super bullish on GitLab. So, and Google's been an investor in GitLab for a while. So, that's take it for what that's worth. But yeah, I'd probably ask someone else who's a little bit more focused on that.
All right, Kris, thank you so much. Congrats on VG. You've made people a decent chunk of cash on this one, and hopefully ASTS is the next one. So I'll hit you up today. We'll set up that live stream. I have the guy on Twitter. I'll put us in a group chat, and keep 9 p.m. Eastern open tomorrow.
Hopefully we can do the same thing with UNH. I think UNH just needs to, get some things together, and I think they're well on their way back to I want to say back to all-time highs again, but it's going to be a long time before they get back to their all-time highs. It's definitely not like a V-shaped recovery by any means, but I think they have a lot of levers that they can pull to get, them back to where they need to go. But let me tell you, Amit, now is the time to keep an eye on two things. One is AI disrupting jobs. And number two is unemployment overall, because I think the drive in unemployment could cause more disinflation than people think. And technology in itself is very disinflationary. So I think this moment that we have in history in 2025 is companies actually utilizing AI to automate a lot of features that they normally would have just hired people. And I think the younger generation not being able to get a job is one of the consequences of that, where people right now who have positions are able to stay in them longer and, because they are where they are. But the younger generation coming out of school, youth unemployment may become a bigger problem in the next few years. So it's something to just keep in mind.
100%. I think we got to keep an eye on that because that could mess up the entire economy if that's the case. All right, actual last question. CPI, good or bad tomorrow? What do you think?
I hope it's bad. I mean, in terms of going, lower.
Market's thinking, the market's expecting 2.5. That would be a 0.2% increase month over month.
Well, the thing is, I think they saw the numbers with the Atlanta Fed and stuff, but it's anyone's guess. It's anyone's guess. For me, I'm looking at this a year from now, and I'm seeing property prices coming down heavily in a lot of parts of the country. And I think that's going to weigh on shelter inflation, which makes up almost 30% of core PCE. So if we start to get some negative prints on that, it's gonna weigh heavily on shelter. I mean, it's going to weigh heavily on inflation expectations. And so, just number of rental vacancies is up. A lot of homes are being on the market right now. They're not being sold. So a lot of that downward pressure is eventually going to reflect in the numbers. So I can't say tomorrow is the day that everything is just going to finally magically happen and we get this wave of deflation. But, if you look at the overall trend, the trend isn't broken. We're still on gradual pace to keep coming down. And I think the Fed, if you annualize out the inflation numbers, they're actually right where they need to be. They're actually sub 2%. If you annualize it out, not that if you just look at the number today, but if you say look, if this is the trend month over month for the next 12 months, this is where it's going to be. It's going to be in a much, much lower place. And if the Trump administration is able to negotiate these trade deals, that specter of tariffs causing inflation, if that goes away, then the Fed definitely has the go ahead to start cutting rates. And they might end up having to do a 50 basis point rate cut in sometime this summer if things get really bad. So we'll see.
Right.
Yep.
All right, Kris. Thank you so much. We will talk to you later.
Later, brother. Have a good one.
Later. Have a good one. All right, folks. Markets are getting a little bit of a move to the downside. Wow, really? Is Morgan Stanley saying the public clash with Trump was calculated? Is Morgan Stanley actually saying that? Because that would be insane. Are they saying the Trump-Elon thing was calculated? Iran, you seeing on the screen right here, becoming much more aggressive in nuclear talks, Trump tells Fox News. S&P is not really red, but we do have some individual stocks that are going down. Tesla, 320 to 317, Palantir below 130, NVIDIA 140, Robin at 71, Grab 468, getting demolished on a day like this. I did buy the dip already on Grab, but that is down 6% on the convertible notes. SoFi right here, 14. That was at 1430. Now it's at 1403. And then Meta, 693. So you got red candles across the board. Is that Morgan Stanley speculating, or do they have some actual data that this was calculated? Morgan Stanley suggests Elon Musk's public clash with President Trump is calculated strategy to draw attention to U.S. fiscal issues, a top priority for Musk. Despite potential negative sentiment towards Tesla's brand, the firm believes this was anticipated by management. Musk's political involvement is inseparable from his role at Tesla, and investors may underestimate his willingness to face criticism. Continued discord could increase Tesla stock volatility, but Morgan Stanley remains confident in Tesla's long-term vision, reiterating an overweight rating and a $410 price target. Okay, so are they saying that Elon calculated this? Or are they saying Elon and Trump together calculated this? I think they're saying the former. I think they're saying Elon tried to create a rift between him and Trump to get, essentially, the TLDR here is to get Democrats to buy Teslas, right? To get the public on his side and to stop associating him with the president. I doubt Elon and Trump called up each other and said, hey, we're going to have this crazy plan. You're going to say them on the Epstein's list, and we're going to have this massive falling out. I really don't think that was the case. Now, even if Elon was trying to be quote unquote calculated, as Morgan Stanley said, to get Trump to hate him and to get the public to be on his side, I would rather go with, I think Elon was just off his rocker on Thursday and was being stupid. I really don't think he had some master plan to get Democrats to like him again. That's weird. That's Morgan Stanley kind of reaching for some hopium here. I don't think that's the case. Tesla stock right here, 317, 316. Yeah, bad take, right? Who's the guy? Adam Jonas and Morgan Stanley? I think Adam's reaching there. I think Adam's reaching there. Yeah, Elon called him a pedophile. Dude, come on. Like, that's not, that's not calculated. That's, yeah, Occam's razor. Exactly. That feels very, very, very weird for him to say that it is calculated. I mean, is there a world where Elon wanted to distance himself from Trump? Sure, but you don't do that by dropping an Epstein list type of a bomb on Trump. That's just weird. By the way, we do have this breaking news. Politicians are buying Hood. Representative Rob Breshnahan just disclosed a new $30,000 buy of Robinhood from May 9th to May 15th. So he bought it back when it was probably in that $60 range. This guy, who does he represent? Northeastern Pennsylvania. Northeastern Pennsylvania. So shout out to Pennsylvania for the representative buying Hood. There you go. Cern Basher is one of the most respected analysts of Tesla. He said it thought it was manufactured to make sense going into robotaxi to alienate. What if Musk was laughing his ass off posting? Okay, fair, but I don't think you say the Epstein part. Like, I can buy the idea that Musk wants to alienate himself from Trump as he gets into the next leg of his Tesla journey, right, with robotaxi Optimus, etc. But you can say a lot of things without saying the Epstein list. But that part just feels like Elon was bored and, he wanted to really cause some pain versus it was severely manufactured. So I don't know. Maybe. I mean, I wonder if Morgan Stanley has any intel on this or if they're just pulling it out their ass, but it would be kind of weird to see how that plays out. 2 government officials tell me U.S.-China trade talks are still ongoing in London, despite some reports in the last few minutes saying otherwise. Yeah, when Kris was talking, there were some reports saying that the talks have concluded. It seems like that's not the case. It seems like the talks are still going on currently right now. All right, cool. That's it. Again, the Scale acquisition stuff. That's the big thing. Meta buying 50% of Scale AI. That's weird. There's something that Scale AI is obviously providing Meta that is getting them very excited. And I think they're getting ready to be bought out. I mean, if they already bought 50% of them, the company is probably going to be bought out in the next couple of years. And this also means Meta doesn't have to do an acquisition, so they don't have to deal with antitrust if they take a 50% stake. This is kind of what Microsoft did with ChatGPT, right? 49% stake they took as well. So this might be their version of doing that as well. All right, cool. That's it. I'll be back on the market close. We will have GameStop earnings today and GitLab. Not the most exciting earnings, but we will take a look at what they end up saying today. Meta news, we'll talk more about at the market close. We got a politician buying some Hood, which is nice to see. Palantir right here at 130, Nvidia at 141. Nvidia kind of just chilling out. And then this Tesla Trump Elon saga continues. Tesla did get to 321 today. Now it's at 317. Robotaxi supposed to launch in 2 days. So I guess, that story we will continue to see in the next couple of days if that one ends up playing out as well. All right, cool. That is it. Word of the day. We have tantalize is the word of the day.
Tantalize.
To torment with something desirable that is just out of reach. It seems like ads for island vacations were written just to tantalize those stuck behind desks all winter. The popcorn machine was designed to tantalize moviegoers with a fan blowing the buttery scent through the lobby. Okay. Grab tantalizes us. Yeah, you guys, as soon as I said it, someone, Grab is tantalizing us every time it gets over $5 and then just decides to get into its hiding spot of 470, 460. It is what it is. I'm buying the dip. I bought the dip already. I'm buying more. 470. I think hopefully that is close to the bottom. We'll see how this plays out. But yeah, over the coming months, we are going to see how this one does. And in general, this entire market is a little bit frothy. So if we can get a name on some discounts, then I'll be trying to pick up those discounts. But that is tantalizing. Yeah, so Technical Tuesday today. Today we have Technical Tuesday. That'll be a big one. So we'll have market open for like 20, 30 minutes. And then we'll have Jason come on and it'll be a good 3 hours of getting into all of the TA of this market. Yo, HIMS is also a bit tantalizing. This thing was at 58, this one, almost 59. Now it's at 54, down 4%. So this one as well, I agree with Nate, dude. I think it's healthily consolidating in the 50s, and you can trade it up or down, but it's not easily breaking out above 60, even though it could. But I think it's not horrible that it's staying in this $50 range currently right now. We tantalize for stock market gains, correct? 100%. All right, that's it. Thank you, everybody. I'll be back on the market close. Bye, everyone. Have a good one. See you guys in a bit.